I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to home.
Who's going to break Naismith's world title?
Look at these two go.
Ewan's going to do it, his first victory.
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Circuit of the Americas as we take on another round of the Formula SimRacing World Championship in 2024. What a story it's been so far as two new faces rise to the fore and fight for their first ever title. Yannick Bock and Owen McGorgy going to today just 3 points apart, with Jake Dennehan, the only other mathematical contender, 28 points back in third position. This is a track, of course, with championship drama in FSR history. Back in 2014, we saw the most dramatic of finales as Bono House took the final of his 5 World Championships. Today, we are unlikely to see a title settled again. It's myself, Ewan O'Leary, Cam Rodger alongside me. Unlikely to be settled, Cam, not for any bad reason, because it's going to be boring. It's already wrapped up. It's far from boring, but it's just too close to wrap up before the championship finale in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's unbelievably tight at the top of the standings. Yannick Bock, after going on a bit of a run of victories, is still only 3 points ahead of McGorgy, who, of course, has won 2 of the last 3 himself. It is very close. It's blow for blow between the two of them, and it is going to be a tight one. Of course, Jake Dennehan missing around is a little bit further back, but he's also coming out swinging. So it's going to be a very interesting final 2 races of the season.
The last time we were here at the Circuit of the Americas, it was 2019, and Martin Gosby took the win on that occasion. I work out quite who the first driver in the field is to have actually raced in that race today, because I'm not entirely sure whether we'll be seeing Joni Simicic again, although I've just seen him in the qualifying session, which has just begun, so maybe it's him. He finished third that day, just 2.5 seconds behind. But there's a look, as you say, at the spread of the field, if you like. We went through quite a period of this season, actually, where we thought this could be one of the most wide-open championships we've ever had. But in the last 4 weeks, Yannick Bock, Owen McGorgy and Jake Dennehan have shared the podium on every occasion. Apart from one, only one driver has infiltrated the podium since mid-April, and that's Patrick Sevitt. What a bizarre statistic that is.
Yeah, of course, Patrick having a wonderful day at Imola, but I do remember there was a couple of issues further up ahead that helped that on that occasion with some incidents. But certainly, it's been an amazing season for Yannick, Owen, and Jake, and especially for Yannick and Owen, because they have been P1, P2 multiple times, or they've been close to each other in certain races. And if we go back to Silverstone as well, Racecoach actually had to let Dennehan go because McGorgy couldn't overtake, so they had to give Jake an opportunity to try and overtake because Bock was so good on defence that day. So they've really just been going at it, and whoever has those marginal gains over the next 2 races will be the champion.
Absolutely. There's only been one occasion where those two, Bock and McGorgy, have not finished on the podium. At least one of them anyway, and that was right back at Bahrain, the first part of the season. That calendar there shows you just how far we've come through 8 rounds in 2024 so far to bring us to the United States today. The Circuit of the Americas for the first time in 5 years, ready to get us underway for the penultimate round. Of course, a week delayed for reasons I don't want to talk about any longer, and a couple of weeks away, a couple of weeks before the finale of the season. As you can see, we're in a slightly, well, I was going to say slightly gloomy, but that was just the camera angle. It's a very nice day. The sun is beating down on a very warm circuit, and the first times are about to come in. We're on board with Owen McGorgy at the moment, the man who is trying to chase down the championship lead and took 7 points away from Yannick Bock at Spa, who actually did quite a good job to even rescue a podium on that day. McGorgy sets the benchmark. Where's Yannick Bock for the moment? He's not even setting a time as things stand, but McGorgy showing again why he is a contender. He has set the time for everyone else to beat.
Yeah, he certainly has, and we have a few reserves to go through. As Rd.9 there goes towards the front by almost a tenth of a second. That is good. He's a driver who's coming midway through the season for Netrex and is really starting to prove his worth, as we know how good he is. Simoncic, purple in that middle sector, of course, not going for the championship this year as such, not the season that he would have wanted, but he's still going to come out swinging for some race victories. Look how close it is up towards the top. Good to see Bianca Lilla back on form as well.
Yeah, we already know that this will be the first season in 6 years that Jone Simoncic will have competed in and not won. He goes over the line now and goes to the top with some vintage Jone Simoncic qualifying form, a 1:34.3. Mitchy Hoyer, his teammate, goes up into 7th place, just ahead of Isaac Hillison, who puts in a time good enough for 8th as well. And now we go on board with Yannick Bock. He qualified quite a few positions behind McGorgy at Spa and spent most of the race catching up, to be honest. He, as I said before, did well, in my opinion, Cam, to actually get a podium on that day and rescue third position, rescue his championship lead, which he still holds on to by 3 points.
Oh, definitely. He's had a few strategy masterclasses over the season, and that was another one. Just getting himself in the right position at the right time, and of course they couldn't do anything about the roadblock of Race Clutch getting a 1-2. They had complete control of that race, a P3, the best that he could do that time around. And coming through the final couple of corners, is he going to put his name up towards the front and challenge the front row?
Out the final corner for the German. What can it be? It's personal best, of course, because he's setting the first time of the day for himself, and it's no time for Yannick Bock. Not even a banker time to set the benchmark. So that's very interesting to see. Out of the line for Cosmo Prosciutto now, who begins sort of a second round of time, if you like. And this will give us a real chance, Cam, to ride on board and have a look at this first sector, which in my opinion is the sort of staple of this circuit, which sort of brings together lots of different circuits characteristics, if you like. This taken from Maggots and Beckett's at Silverstone, and what a section of corners it is.
Yeah, it's a tale of two halves, is this track. You've got this really fast and flowing twisty section where you need the higher downforce as such to go through there, carry the speed. And of course, Sector 2, Sector 3 is more the slow corners, all about the rear tyres. It's a very interesting one to set the car up. And of course, Cosmo in his home race as well, being an American. Let's see if he can try and get himself well up inside the points today, as Maggio goes purple in that first sector as well. So he's looking fast as Prosciutto continues his lap.
It kind of feels like this track was designed to shred tyres as quickly as possible rather than anything else, to be honest. But it does a pretty good job of that. Out of the all-important turn at the very bottom of the circuit now. This is turn 11, which it brings you out onto the very long run to the back straight here, where we'll see surely a lot of passing made. And the DRS zone you can see just towards the second half, if you like, of that straight. That's where we'll see the big braking manoeuvres down in towards turn 12. And then the section where you really need 3 monitors, to be honest, or at least a very wide monitor, because you need to see the apexes sort of that are not really in your peripheral view rather than in your straightforward view. Here goes Thomas Vack over the line for Go Team now. It goes, stays where he is actually. Cosmo Prosciutto stays where he is as well. We're getting to that stage now where people are not improving so much, but Jake Dennehan does. He goes up to 3rd position, just ahead of his teammate.
Certainly does, and it's an interesting one for some of these drivers, as it seems to be that the order's slightly different from where we've seen some people on some other tracks, and that's good though. We have had that extra week's break. Of course, there's a lot of summer holidays going on, people away, maybe not be able to practice quite as much. And as ever, with the times being so close, I mean, 4/10 for the top 12 is just quite crazy, as it seems like everyone is pretty much just setting themselves up for their next lap.
And just a thought popped into my head there watching Yannick Bock on the back straight, because the track temperature is a quite monstrous 56.5 degrees centigrade at the moment. Now, is that going to have any effect on what these guys would have done otherwise, or will they have been expecting Texan sunshine given it is July?
So the conditions have obviously been set in the mod since it got released. So I'm sure everyone would have been expecting the hot conditions as such. But this is very hot. This is hotter than Singapore, which is often the hottest race. But of course, we did Singapore back in April, so not quite at the height of the sun, whereas now we are in July in the baking heat and almost desert of Austin, Texas. But talking of hot, that first sector from Jene Simicic, he's gone purple.
He has. What else would you expect from him? He is a 4-time champion of this series, looking to make it 5, looking to equal the record Bonner House set at this very circuit all the way back in 2014. It was a race filled with drama, Cam. I'm sure you remember it from now 10 years ago, would you believe it?
Don't say that.
I know. It's a long time ago, but lives long in the memory for those who were around to see it at the time. It was a quite dramatic race, and as I said in the intro, we're not going to see that kind of drama. We're not going to see a title settled today without any sort of huge upset, but we could see the shaping of a world champion. We could see any driver that comes out with a double figures points lead could have one hand on the trophy at the end of tonight.
Oh, definitely, and this could be a big one. He's gone white, and so no improvement in that middle sector, but how good is it going to be overall? He comes out of the final corner, half a tenth up on second place. What is he going to be across the line for Jene Simicic? Just a tenth and a half. He improves further, 34.25. Let's see what everyone else can do to respond.
Yeah, about a tenth of an improvement there, so he sets the benchmark at a tenth and a half for Jotan and at least 2 tenths for everybody else. There's Owen McGorgy making his way through the first sector for the first time. Jake Dennehan's going quickly though. He takes that purple first sector off of Jene Simicic. Nobody else has been able to do that so far. By the way, we're still waiting for a time from Yannick Bock right now, who is nowhere to be seen.
Yes, that is not a good one, but I think he's come around the final couple of corners. No, he's not. He's actually on a lap right now. He's on a decent first sector, but he's in this middle sector now where he needs to try and improve and try and get himself up there, because realistically right now, anything inside the top 6, 7, 8 is what he's going to be aiming for.
Absolutely, and he can't get it wrong either. Don't forget that. He's not put a banker time in like the race clutch guys can basically throw caution to the wind, because they know that realistically they're not going to slip any further than the third row, fourth row, so they can absolutely throw the cars off the road, and Jake Dennehan has. He's ended the session, but Yannick Bock's got to get this right and get a time on the board, and he's got to be near the race clutch guys. Over the line for the German, and it's absolutely perfect. Yannick Bock gets to third, the highest of pressure on him there in that final lap time, and he delivers third place by a tenth, 100th of a second. Oh, going McGorgy. He was fastest in the first sector. He just about hangs onto the car. He believes there's something left in this lap, but no, it gets away from him at the end. That could have been the improvement that saw him ahead of his championship rival, but no, he stays in 6th position as it will now be. Jotan gets back to 2nd as Dennis Jordan improves late on to get to 3rd.
What an end to the session. Jotan just jumped Dennis Jordan, who, as you said, jumped up right at the end as well. So an interesting front row there with the 2 J's of Jene and Jotan, and in behind, of course, the friends who were bumper to bumper in that order, 3rd and 4th at the previous race in Spa, Jordan and Bock, and then, of course, the 2 race clutch guys on the 3rd row. This is going to be an interesting start.
Yeah, Alessandro Maggio is on the 4th row alongside Manuel Biancalula, who is returning again to the series after not scoring any points since the Great British Grand Prix back in Silverstone. Good to see him back, though, in an all-Italian row 4. Sander Callas and then Jonas Braxok round out the top 10 of that session, although only 3 tenths away. Alex Lahoe is in 11th ahead of Kostas Van Vukas. Mitchie Hoyer 13th alongside Isaac Killerson. They'll both be moving forward from row 7, you would imagine. Philip Pushka will be alongside Cosmo Picciuto, who just out-qualifies his teammate Thomas Back. Petr Perlak, who was there, by the way, on that day in 2019, finished 4th at the last time we were at the circuit in the Americas. We'll have to do well to finish 4th again from 18th on the grid. Giordano Valeriano and George Zalagianis round out the 20 on the grid, and then 21 on the grid, excuse me, Jan Krankwist. I wouldn't say that's a representative time from him. By the way, stat on Jan Krankwist, because he had such a great start to the season. Unfortunately, though, he's only scored 12 points since round 3, and that's a real disappointment for him. I think he was leading after round 3, it was all round 2. He was certainly leading the championship at one stage. He's only scored 12 points since March. Yeah,
that's a horrible stat to hear from Grankvist, who is having a really good season in general in terms of his pace, but the results have just not come. Of course, the previous race at Spa. He took out Maggio in that first stint as well, up towards Les Combes, getting a penalty from that one. So not the ideal way that he would have wanted to continue on in the season. But, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. And it's something that you just have to try and come back from. Hopefully he's able to take the start of the race and sort of be competitive. Maybe he was just using the extra 10 minutes there for some practice, being, well, clearly 7 seconds off, being some race laps.
Yeah, it's never a good sign for someone's race credentials when you see their qualifying time not representative of their pace at all. So hopefully he will get onto the circuit. And don't forget, I think it was him at Turkey, wasn't it, that disconnected at possibly the worst moment there's ever been in a race, or in any race, the worst possible moment, right before you actually get onto the grid and begin. So hopefully that doesn't happen to him, or indeed anybody else throughout today. So Yannick Bock just about got the lap in there at the very end. That, by the way, was a pressure on him that, I mean, he will scarcely have experienced in his life before. That was a lap that absolutely needed to come in, not least just to get near the race clutch guys. You know, I think he would have taken 1 or 2 positions behind the race clutch guys. You know, that would have been okay. But for him to actually produce a lap under that pressure, to jump ahead of both of them, was quite extraordinary, and puts him in a decent position actually for the start of this race, despite the fact he's got 3 ahead of himself anyway. Yeah,
it's going to be a tough one actually for those top 3 in the championship. As you say, they got 3 drivers ahead of them who are just not in contention at all. I mean, I know Dennis Jordan's there in sort of 4th, 5th place in the championship, but he's so many points behind, he's not really going to get involved. So those 3, they effectively have some drivers to get involved with their plans, and that can never be a fun situation for them if they want to try and obviously have a nice clean race. And with the temperatures around here, the tyres are going to be very hot. The longevity is going to be an interesting one. So I'm expecting a bit of an interesting race. And as you can see on the track map as well, the DRS zone is pretty short around here. I mean, it's less than half of the back straight here. So I'm expecting a bit of a spicy one with some bit of a ascendage into the hairpin.
That's where it's going to have to happen, I think. By the way, don't discount Yo Tyne either here. I know we've not seen much of him this season. He's only been here for 2 rounds, but he finished 5th at the Turkish Grand Prix. While he only finished 11th at Spa, he did get the fastest lap, which shows you the pace that he has. So don't discount him at all, of course. Jonas Simičić won't be discounted by anybody. He's a 4-time world champion after all. Dennis Jordan as well has been around for a long time in the World Championship these days. He's scored points in every single round so far this season. There's actually quite a few drivers who can boast that statistic at the moment. Both Michi Hoyer, Jonas Braksuk, Owen McGorgy and Yannick Bock could all boast having scored points in every single round this season. However, it's noticeable the difference between the likes of Braksuk, Jordan and Hoyer and Bock and McGorgy in the positions where they finish when they finish in the points. The top 2 have been relentless in getting podiums this season.
And even Jake Dennehan as well is obviously he missed a race, but the rest of his results are really strong inside the top 6 all season. That 6th place was actually only because of a 2-position penalty, so really he's in the top 5 in terms of his actual finishing position. So incredible consistency from these top guys. And if you add even, let's say 20 points or 21 points to Jake for his missed race, saying he got a 2nd place, he would only be 5 points off McGorgy. So looking very good at the top of the World Championship this season, and I can't really wait to see how they're going to finish the season. After the tensions as such that were springing up back at Spa, I'm expecting a few fireworks because of course we had the race being controlled from Race Clutch. Then we had some interesting overtakes and friends being friends in behind that. There were a couple of interesting protests as well coming through. So it's getting to that point in the season where things are getting a little bit spicy.
Is, but this is the biggest break between races that we've had this season, and we will have this season as well. 4 weeks since the Belgian Grand Prix took place back at Spa. Let's have a look at the starting grid for the USA Grand Prix. It's Jonas Simičić and Yo Tyne on the front row, ahead of Dennis Jordan and Yannick Bock, who produced that wonderful late lap to get onto the outside of row 2. It's an all-race clutch row 3 as Jake Dennehan leads his championship contending teammate Owen McGorgy, Alessandro Maggio and Manuel Biancalula round out an all-Italian row 4. in at 9th place. Sander Callas outqualifies his ground effect teammate again with 9th ahead of Jonas Braksok, who gets into the top 10. Alex Laho and Kostas van Bucas will share row 6. Row 7 will be Mitchie Hoyer and Isaac Hillerson, both for sure looking to move forward. Philip Pushka will be 15th ahead of Cosmo Prosciutto, who is 16th. He just about out-qualifies his teammate, who is Thomas Vack on this occasion. Petr Perlak, who finished 4th last time we were here at the Circuit of the Americas in the World Championship, starts 18th, ahead of Giordano Valeriano and George Zalagianis rounding out the top 20, and Jan Grankvist on the back row by himself. So, the drivers are out for a formation lap. 56 laps up ahead of them, and for the first tyre selections have been made. I'm always wary, Cam, to make too many readings into what we're seeing on the graphics at the moment, because I know that it changes quite regularly. But what are you expecting to see off the start here in terms of tyre compounds, not only for those front runners, but for those in the midfield and towards the back as well, looking to do a bit different?
From what I remember of the pro race last time, I was expecting quite a few mediums, and that is what we are seeing. Interesting though, hard tyres from Tyan, Maggio and Biancalilla inside the top 10. Then soft tyres for Jordan and Hoyer. So look for them to be trying to make some moves. And then importantly, potentially getting the undercut, having a shorter first stint. So that could be quite an interesting one. We have seen a few two-stops this season, especially from the likes of Bock and Biancalilla. They've really been the best on the tyres. But with how hot the track is, I don't know if you're going to be able to try that. So 3 stops leaves a lot of opportunities. We've seen the tyres being fairly close this season. And if everyone is on a 3-stop, then you can basically do whatever you want in any order. Just depends with where the track position is and where the gaps open up.
Into the final couple of corners. Everybody comes now. The experienced Jurnej Simicic takes them in and lines them up on the grid once again. He's certainly used to doing this. He's just taken his 31st pole position in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. That's a number that's fast increasing. Although not so much in recent times, I've got to say. It's more the race wins that he's been knocking off with more frequency. I'll hope that he can do a lights to flag victory on this occasion, but he's going to have so many big contenders hounding him for that win on this occasion. 56 laps in the 2024 US Grand Prix. 10 years ago, the site of one of the most dramatic championship finales the Formula SimRacing World Championship has ever seen. This time, it's the penultimate round and could set us up for a grandstand finale to a dramatic 2024 season. It's time to go racing for round 9 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship here from the Circuit of the Americas. The first time in 5 years, we're going to go racing in Texas. The lights go out and Jurnej Simicic gets off to a rocket start. Joltine goes nowhere, and down the inside goes the championship leader Yannick Bock with 3 wide into turn 1. As down the inside of absolutely everybody goes Owen McGorgy. An unbelievable start from him, and in fact all of the red machines on the second and third rows. Dennis Jordan gets up to second, ahead of Owen McGorgy. Then it's Jake Dennehan and Yannick Bock, who's been pushed back one place, but crucially behind his championship rivals.
Oh, what an important start for the 2 race clutch cars getting past Yannick Bock. Terrible start from Joltine, second to 4th place. We're about 5 wide for one moment coming down there. Incredible scenes. And as we come through the end of stage 1, big off in the background. There might be a Lahoo for the Optinimal, who's dropped back.
He started 11th, I'm afraid. He'll be well outside the top 10 now, down in 18th position after that trip into the gravel over the top of the hill there. It's a tricky exit to the S's down there at turn 9. Side by side, just ahead of him between Petr Perlak and Cosmo Prosciutto. Prosciutto's gone backwards a little bit himself on this start here as Petr Perlak tries to make his way back up towards the front again. Speaking of those at the front, it's Jurnej Simicic leading Dennis Jordan, Owen McGorgy, Jake Dennehan, Yannick Bock, Joltine in the top 6. They're where all the championship contenders are as well. What a dream start for Race Clutch.
This is just showing you how good this track can be sometimes, and that turn 1 already having an important factor potentially in this race. It is a long one though, 56 laps in some very hot conditions, and it's not going to be an easy one for the drivers. They've got to keep their head on it, and especially with the way the racing is going to be with the shorter DRS zone, it's going to have to be some nice controlled overtakes. As we finish lap 1 though, Dennis Jordan second place, 6/10 behind Simicic, who still leads.
Yep, he's holding on the medium compound tyres. The only difference inside the top 5 is Dennis Jordan, who's on the soft tyres. Surely he needs to be starting to think already about trying to pass Jurne Simicic, who he of course knows very well indeed, and try and make use of those soft compound tyres. As we're going to have a little bit of a look at the start here and just how Yartayan dropped so many places off the start.
Yeah, I'm going to assume he just got the absolute worst launch in the world, which he did.
Reaction.
And wheel spin already, even in third gear. And then the issue is up the inside, around the outside, he just didn't really have anywhere to go. Got squeezed a little bit there. And of course, further contact with Maggio. That would have been on the outside. Fortunately, I think he's able to hold him off. Well, certainly not the start that he would have wanted. But from the likes of Yannick Bock, he would have been absolutely loving that one from his point of view. Obviously being on that second row and then able to take a good jump at the start.
Pretty interesting to see what Owen McGorgy did on the start here as well, because he certainly made up a few places. There are the lights coming on here, and Bock goes through an impossible gap on the left here, by the way. Have a look at this. Very, very close to the wall, but we've seen that done before, and it's okay. So down the inside he goes. Then McGorgy finds some space down the inside. That's him on the left-hand side there. So remarkable start from Race Clutch. Generally, they sort of sandwiched Bock, and actually, to be fair to Jake Dennehan, he actually just got a better launch than Bock and was ahead of him anyway. McGorgy was just aggressive on the brakes and got through on him in the corner. So now Bock's in a difficult situation. He's in a similar situation to what they all were at the Belgian Grand Prix, where McGorgy's ahead and he's got his rear gunner Dennehan ready to defend on his behalf.
Yeah, 2 by 2, or well, I guess 1 by 1 in this case, is always the best position you can be with your teammate. There is a bit of a gap opening there, though, as McGorgy is all over the back of Dennis Jordan. Remember, Dennis is on the softer compound of tyres, but he isn't clearly faster at this point, and potentially even McGorgy is the fastest of this top 3. So how the tyre management is going to go over the stint is going to be very crucial indeed. And sometimes we've seen actually the softs go longer. If you remember back to Singapore, Bock did soft in the first 2 stints and actually went the longest of anybody both times. And
he has shown himself to be very kind on the tyres, where maybe if there's a thing that Bock is stronger than McGorgy, then it might well be tyre management, as we've seen throughout the season. Here goes Dennis Jordan, into the lead of the race. That's not unexpected, as he has to make use of his soft tyres early on in this race.
Oh, he certainly does. Moves in the background as well as all the DRS gets open. We've got a good battle here with Callas and Maggio, who's dropped back a couple of positions from the start. Maggio on those hard compound tyres as well, and now behind Callas on those mediums. A couple of hards up ahead as well with Tyan and Bianca Lilla.
Matt Jens Braxock has lost 1 position off the start so far, but that's no shameful thing at all, because it's to Michi Hoyer on soft tyres, and that is going to be a pretty difficult thing to defend against. Not a bad idea actually for Hoyer to put the soft tyres on. I'm sure he'll be disappointed to have qualified on the 7th row of the grid for this race, and so he's thought, well, I'll put the softest tyres on, I'll try and see how many places I can make up early on here.
Well, absolutely, he's got nothing to lose at that point, and he has had an interesting season with what you said earlier. He's got points every race, but he hasn't necessarily had the best qualifying or the best races, but he's always been solidly in that sort of 5th to 8th. Yeah, that's sort of 5th to 8th bracket. He's been really, really strong and just picking off positions throughout the race. So hopefully this will be another one for him. And I guess the next point of action for those soft tyre runners as well is going to be how early they pick compared to everyone else.
Yeah, outside of the top 2, he's got the smallest gap between his best and worst finish, with 4th and 11th being his best and worst. Michi Hoyer out onto the back straight again. Who's that waving around over there? I think it's Jake Dennehan again, trying to defend from Yannick Bock here, and it all could come to a head down here on the way towards turn 12. Does Bock go for this move on the inside? No, it's too early for aggressive dives, but Dennehan has lost the DRS to his teammate McGorgy, either by design or by pace, and that is creating a lot of pressure on him right now. Yes, it's a hard one, because of course he's out of DRS zone, but he's also really out of the slipstream range as well. So even if you're sort of a second behind, so the DRS detection is 0.7, but of course slipstream is still working a bit after that. So even if you're 0.1, 1 second I should say, then you still get a couple of Ks extra just from the slipstream. It just helps you defend a little bit, but unfortunately for Jake, he's a little bit even further out of that. And it seems like the top 3 really have some pace. Dennis Jordan actually pulling away ever so slightly, a couple of tenths that time around.
And is that going to be a marker for him potentially to try and pull away?
Here we go, a look up the inside from Yannick Bock, but no move made, and he couldn't throw Jake Dennehan off in towards turn number 1. That's a very difficult thing to do indeed. Next in the line is Jörg Tyne, who didn't get off to a very good start, but he's settled in very well since then in 6th place. Manuel Biancalilla 7th, then of Sander Callas, then Alessandro Maggio and Michi Hoyer rounding out the rest of the top 10, but it's not just the top 10 who are involved in this train. It goes all the way back to Isaac Killison down in 14th position. This is far-reaching, long-reaching. I think what Dennehan is trying to do essentially is make sure that McGorgy is involved in a front three who can essentially argue for the podium places among themselves and try and block Bock out of those podium places.
I don't know if that is enough by design though, because is a difficult game to play, because now he's basically got to hold up the German for the rest of the race if that is their strategy as such. But also you just never know how the race is going to go. They are starting to get backed up a little bit. I'm not going to lie. The Jörg Tyne is right on the back of Bock now, and then even the cars in behind. So Dennehan maybe is lacking a tenth or two that he could very handily have right now.
Out of the slowest corners on the circuit, that was turn 16, and then the long right-hander, which is triple apex, quadruple apex indeed, at 17, 18. That is called, and then into the final couple of turns. This is earlier on in the race. Alex Lehoux ended up off the road, and I thought it would have been contact because it was the opening lap. He actually just slid himself off.
Yeah, it certainly did. As we've also seen a move. This was on the previous lap to when we were live. Peter Burlick gets a huge run on Philip Puschke to the outside. Don't always see moves around the outside in towards the hairpin, but it seems like it's actually going to be a little bit later that he makes the move. Is it going to be a dive down the inside, or was it actually just them switching the positions that the game thought was an overtake? I think it might just be.
I think it was an attempt of an overtake, and he very nearly did it, but not quite. Burlick is still behind Puschke for the moment, but looking for 15th position as things stand. Always good to see Burlick in the field. Of course, the championship battles with Jurnej Simoncic of 2020 and other years, and his own 2015 World Championship indeed is seeming like a long time ago now, but it's good to see him back on the grid all over again as we go back down into turn 12 again. Sander Callas, I think, very nearly accidentally tried to overtake Manuel Biancalilla there, and now he's going to do it for real. Into turn 13, forces the Italian to go defensive. Now he'll get the run off of 14. He could have a look down here. It's impossible to know how to defend in this final sector, and Sander Callas uses that to his advantage, although doesn't leave a whole lot of room for Manuel Biancalilla, who defends on the outside. Now he'll have the inside for this quadruple right-hander, and Callas tries to go around the outside of all of them. That would have been spectacular. Eventually, he just about runs out of roads, but he gave it a very good go.
Yeah, Biancalilla, of course, went off track there. He was kind of forced there, so I don't think Callas has too much to worry about in terms of that regard. Biancalilla, in the end, keeps the place. Nice battle from those guys, really pushing it up inside this top 10. Biancalilla, of course, was really competing for the championship at the start of the season due to his longevity, especially on these hard compound tyres. I think at Bahrain did something like 28 laps on them. And of course, the tyres have not changed since then, so let's see how he fares today.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a Max Verstappen impression from Biancalilla, was it? But I suppose you wouldn't have watched it, Cam, would you? I suppose you weren't.
Saw the highlights.
Okay, fine. Fine. So there you go. Sorry for the spoilers, but it happened about 8 hours ago. So get with it. It's been a bit, yeah, exactly. It's been in the public domain for a while now. Meanwhile, lap 7 of the US Grand Prix. How far are we expecting Dennis Jordan to take this? Because I can envisage a problem for him, to be honest with you. He's one of very few soft tyre runners out here, and if he doesn't take his soft tyres roughly as far as the others are taking their mediums, then he'll have to pit early, and he'll end up in an endless train of traffic.
Yes, so the pit delta is somewhere around the 22 second mark, depending on obviously how you go in and out of the pit lane and everything like that in that region. And where would that put you right now in the train at the back of the field? And even if you wait a few more laps for some field spread, you're then just going to be next to Grankvist or Valeriano, and you're going to be right on the back of that big train. So I do see what you mean. He does kind of need to go as long as he can, really. And in that regard, what would be the benefit of going to the softs? Well, I guess he has jumped up to the lead of the race.
Yeah, I mean, if he can hold on to the soft for long enough, then fair enough. But unless guys like Braxop, Van Vukas, Vac and Hillison, Burlak and Pasuto are pitting, I don't see how he can pit himself. He's sort of resigned to staying out for the moment. This is George Argianis out of turn 9. Oh my goodness me! Who's that in the road there? That might be why those two are at the back of the field together. That would be Filip Puška, who was battling with Petr Burlak not so long ago. How did he end up there? It's losing the rear out of turn 9. Good avoidance for Burlak. And then back as well. He's got to stay where he is. He did in the end, actually. But George Argianis, eventually someone was going to hit him. Unfortunately, it was Argianis.
Yeah, and then this is back to live now. And Filip Puška coming into the pit lane. So interesting crash there, but very tough for all of the drivers coming around, because it's a completely blind apex there. You come through the sort of chicane, come up over the crest, and then boom, there's a car spun around. That's a bit of a shame for Filip, because he was really on, in that train there and doing a pretty decent job. And also for Zalagianis, the amount of DNFs this man has had this season, he just needs a good race, and this isn't going to be that one.
Unfortunately not. He has attended all of the races so far this season and has got a couple of points to his name as a result of a 14th position at the Belgian Grand Prix, so he's off the mark in 2024, and that's a great thing for him. Meanwhile, gap opened up here as Jone Simicic has made some mistakes, and that was a track extend there through the penultimate corner, but he's trying to stay with Dennis Jordan, and he's going to push to do so here. I mean, it must have been a mistake for him. I can't imagine McGorgy went for an overtake that went wrong, but that may have happened also, I suppose. It's a dreamy situation for Jordan, though. He's kind of on the wrong tyres, but he's leading, and he's a second ahead of everybody else.
He certainly isn't. Things are happening out there. So Valeriano has DNF'd from the race. Let's see how he's done that. He's coming through the long right-hander, just loses the rear end. Rear end just goes around on him, and he's going to go into the gravel, and he's going to, he didn't really crash, but he's going to choose at least to DNF from that one.
Yeah, I mean, that car looked nervous right from the very beginning. I think he's got that set up a little bit wrong, I'm afraid. You need a very stable car indeed to hold the full length of that right-hander, if you like. It's a very tricky corner indeed, but you've got to nail it if you want to do well at this circuit. There is the rear view of Jone Simicic, and a lack of a rear wing opening. Lack of a rear wing opening too for McGorgy here as they continue to run, but he is closing on Jordan again. I think there was just a mistake, to be honest, from Simicic a lap or so ago that has opened up this margin for Dennis Jordan. He's currently running in 5th in the championship. Would you believe he's not had a podium yet this season? Even if he were to finish 3rd, it would be his best performance of the season so far.
But Jone's not had a podium?
No, Dennis, I said.
Sorry, I was going to say.
Yeah,
the name. Yes, I mean, I tell you what though, Dennis has had a tricky couple of years, hasn't he? Really, even if you go back to last year as well. Of course, he had a couple of race wins at Canada and Britain, especially. He was quite dominant in one of them, but it just didn't quite work out for him, and he ended up being 3rd in the championship. The previous year as well, 2022, back when he was at Red Bull with Alex Siebel, it was really Alex who went for the championship that season as well. So he's had a win, or at least 2 wins in the last couple of seasons each, but this season it's just been that slight bit worse.
Yeah, he's been a race winner in every season that he's done so far. He joined us in, well, I'm not counting 2019 where he did make an appearance at the Hungaroring, but I'm not counting that. He took part fully in 2020, took a race win at a pretty dramatic Zandvoort race. I'm sure, maybe you remember that one, Cam. 2021, couple of wins on that occasion. 2021 win, but an improvement on championship position up to 3rd, and a couple of wins last season as well. But this is a tall order now to even hang on to the lead on lap 10 of the US Grand Prix. He's defending hard from Jone Simicic, but look at that roaring around the outside. The 4-time champion gets through, and look at Yannick Bock looking up the inside of Jake Dennehan, who defends just enough to hold on to 4th place.
Well, it's Simicic who takes the lead, and is this now the crossover between the mediums and the softs? Is Dennis now going to be losing? At that point, does he then go into the pit lane? But surely it's too soon to go in the pit lane at this point, just 10 laps into the race. Interesting times. Yone is pushing, and he's already got that 7/10 of a second gap, which is for the DRS. He's still got another half a lap to the detection zone, as it is going to be Dennis Jordan coming in, so 10 laps maximum for the soft compound tyres.
He's got to bite the bullet, I suppose, because those tyres looked ruined in those final couple of corners. He was only behind Simicic for a sector, but he'd lost nearly a second. Into the lane he goes. It's got to be hard tyres, you would think, up on the jacks. I wouldn't believe that just for the moment. I know that it says soft tyres. We'll wait for confirmation for a few moments' time. But there have been some pit stops behind him. Callas and Pasuto are in. Encouragingly for Jordan, they were both medium tyre runners. So this is in the window for those who started on mediums too. And that's exactly what Jordan needs. Before he gets to the back of this really long train, started by Jake Dennehan, he needs those guys involved within that train to pit.
Absolutely. And the other soft tyre starter is, of course, Michi is up into 8th place. But we have 4 mediums, then 3 hards at the front before the the sole remaining soft tyre of Michi Hoyer. Interesting strategies come out. And Simicic, he's pushing. Look at this, 1.2 seconds to Magorgi. And this is definitely an important phase of the race.
Yeah, he's very good at Yone. Was very good last year, especially at playing the game of waiting for the final stint, saving your energy, and then absolutely hitting everybody for 6 in the final stint. I remember especially at Barcelona in 2023, he played everybody like a piano. It was just unbelievable the way that Simicic was able to disguise how quick he was, just wait, save his energy, and then completely destroy everybody in the final stint of the race. That's not the way he wants to win this one, clearly. He wants to get away. He doesn't want to play the games of waiting around. He wants to race from the beginning. He is a racer after all. He absolutely loves these kind of races where you are going right from the beginning to the very end. And he's trying to create one of those races at the moment. Magorgi doesn't particularly want one of those, and he follows in his teammate, just Jake Dennehan. So Race Clutch are pitting among the principal contenders for this race.
So they go to the hards for Jake, mediums for Owen. I think that's good that they split the strategy, but the interesting part is obviously where is Dennis Jordan going to be, and he's going to be miles ahead coming up in towards turn 1. So that undercut certainly good. Actually, no, has updated for Dennis. He is on the medium tyre, so you were correct, Ewan, not to completely believe that straight away. So it was the mediums for Dennis Jordan, and it has worked out in his favour, but I would still say that this is pushed Race Clutch to pit earlier than they would have wanted.
I think so. It's really a question now for me of whether Simicic, Bock and Tyan react. I mean, not expecting Yo Tyan and Manuel Biancalilla and Alessandro Maggio to react here because they're on the hard tyres. They're going to go long. But are we going to see Simicic and Bock react to this now? By the way, I would advise anybody at home watching to just wait maybe a lap for Magorgi and Dennehan, just in case those tyres do switch graphically, and we do get a switch, and they just have actually. Magorgi's on the hard tyres, as it turns out. So, just do bear with that for a moment. Sander Callas could be an irritant for Jake Dennehan here, but he's well entitled to go for this, and he is doing. Down the inside at turn 12. Oh, there's very nearly contact. And Callas there was very aggressive in his move. I don't think Dennehan will be very pleased with him, but the Estonian is well within his rights to do this. He now has a look at the inside. He loves this move. Down the inside of Manuel Biancalilla a few laps ago. This time it's Jake Dennehan, who again has to take to the tarmac runoff. Now round the outside of the right-hander, he has to go again. But he's on medium tyres versus the hards. He won't get through on this occasion. He pulls to the outside again. Now he'll go for the final corner. Spectacular battle between the two. Callas trying to make it work, but with the exit, Jake Dennehan will hang on to the place. Yannick Bock will be punching the air, if you could see this, because he will get ahead of Jake Dennehan as a direct result of Sander Callas.
And they've got to be careful with this one, because they're just going to be losing time ahead, but Callas wants that position. And the start of his race has actually gone pretty well. And for Jake Dennehan, he's now close to 5 seconds behind his teammate. And that's all because he didn't really have the pace in that first stint. He was a second or two behind. Now he's getting caught up in battles that he doesn't need to be in. But again, that's just because he didn't quite have that track position that he wanted earlier.
If I was Yannick Bock's team engineer right now, I'd be saying get in the pit lane this very moment, because that opportunity to slot into that gap there between the two Race Clutch cars, I can't imagine that ever arising again in this race. And Dennehan is absolutely pushing, you can see, to try and close that gap as much as he can. He's not going to close 4.5, 5 seconds, surely. But so Bock has got to slot himself within that. He's got to avoid a Belgian Grand Prix situation where he gets stuck behind Dennehan, protecting McGorgy. He's got to somehow circumvent that, and this is the perfect way to do it.
And I wanted to check on McGorgy, and he is on the back of Dennis Jordan. He's on those hard tyres compared to Dennis. So once again, he's a step harder. However, it is still looking very good as Simoncic comes into the pit lane. Bock and Tyne stay out.
I don't understand that from Yannick Bock, I've got to be honest. Unless he's trying to make less stops than the race clutch drivers, as he has done on relatively regular occasions this season. So he won the Turkish Grand Prix after all. Up on the jacks for Simoncic then. And he will be behind Jordan and McGorgy, you would have thought, with the undercut here. And pretty comfortably so. There he is. He's miles behind. He would have been behind Dennehan would it not have been the battle between Callas and Dennehan. Maggio doesn't get through, though, on Dennehan, who is really pushing here and is closing that gap again and again. I'd be worried now if I was Bock, to be honest. I think unless he's planning on making a pit stop less than the others, he is driving himself into a dangerous situation of traffic, much like the Belgian Grand Prix.
I guess from his perspective, still being in the car, he won't quite see how it's unfolding. So as you say, he doesn't need an engineer to try and help him. Or as you say, he's just trying to go longer like he has done most of the season, and it does seem to work. You risk the track position in the middle part of the race, but it does seem to come good at the end.
Well, let's see how his master plan comes to fruition at the end, because I don't want to doubt him too much. I did doubt his strategy at Turkey, and he did win, so I'm not willing to go too far on that one. But there's Jake Dennehan, just ahead of Sander Callas. These two seem to have made up a little bit, made a bit of an agreement, a peace agreement for 9th position. Sander Callas no longer attacking quite so much. I mean, I think Callas will get some criticism for that, especially from Dennehan himself, but there's nothing that says he can't do that, nothing that says he can't attack for the lead of the race there, and so why not?
And especially for the likes of Callas, who, is not having the season he would have wanted. 15th in the championship. He's only had one top 5, which was 5th place. So I'm completely looking at the wrong stat there, but he hasn't had the best results that he would have wanted. He's only had a couple of top 7s is his best result. So he's not having the season he would have wanted. He's got the opportunity to race Jake Dennehan, and all of a sudden, he's now been put in a situation where he had to fight for it, and he didn't quite come out on top.
Well, we've even seen some hard tyre runners in now. Jonas Braxok and who else was in? Manuel Biancolulu was in to put on, as that graphic says, some more hard compound tyres. We'll go through really who's on what compound when everybody's stopped, I think, and when the graphics have fully caught up with whatever everyone is on in terms of tyres, because it will take a little bit of time just for it to figure itself out and for us to work out who is where with regards to this race. These are the leading two, though. The 2 out of the only 3 who haven't pitted so far in this race. Yannick Bock leading Jarl Tyne with, in 3rd place, Alex Lehoux stepping in for Matthew Williams here in the Optimino car, currently running 3rd place. If he doesn't pit soon, it'll be a bit of a problem for Dennis Jordan in the not too distant future. But coming up towards the end of lap 15, we've already gone through a quarter of this race. It's been very engaging so far, and we have got such a close race on our hands, such a high stakes race on our hands in the story of the 2024 World Championship.
And the leaders finally come in. Yannick Bock, after 15 laps on the mediums, comes in. Jarl Tyne stays out. He's on the hards. Now, Dennis Jordan has already halved the pit stop gap effectively too. Of course, he was a couple of seconds ahead already, but he's basically half a pit stop. So he is going to be so far ahead of these guys that it does make you wonder how that is going to work in the long term. Who's in the pit lane as well. Of course, Simoncic is going to be getting past Bock. Who else is going to be getting past the German driver? Even Michi Hoyer is going to be getting past.
This could be very damaging for Bock, side by side with Maggio, and he needs to be careful here. Just Bock side by side. This will be important. Side by side they go into the S's. Somebody will have to back out here. There's not space for 2, and Maggio backs out. He is the driver with the less appearances. He's lower down in the standings, and maybe he took that upon himself to back out of a battle with a big championship contender like Yannick Bock. But 8th place then for the German. He finds himself behind Michi Hoyer, who's made great progress, by the way, early on with the soft tyres and with that pit stop cycle as well. Is now 7th, could possibly be 6th by the time Jarl Tyne comes in. But Yannick Bock made a pretty important pass there. He'll need to make another one here on the back straight.
Yeah, feel free to go for it, Alex, but you don't want to be the one to take out a championship contender in turns 4, 5, 6. I think that's probably a safe option for Maggio to back out. To the left-hand side, Hoyer's going to go to try and defend. On the outside is going to be the German of Yannick Bock as he goes past Michi Hoyer down into 8th position. And that was a crucial move because Bock now has some clean air to catch up to the back of Callas, and he's in a position basically just to control this. Is up the inside. Huge send there from Maggio to try and get past Hoyer as well.
And he was able to give space on the outside of the corner as well. See, it is possible. And they go side by side round the long right-hander as well. It's going to be possible to give each other room here too. Look at that. Great racing between the two. But Hoyer hangs on from Maggio, who completely drives off the road, almost with a wash of dirty air, like a slap in the face. He goes straight on. Manuel Biancalula goes straight through into 9th position. Meanwhile, Jörg Tyen is going to get overtaken by all of them. He's going to be undercut by absolutely everybody, including Isaac Hillison. Where's he come from? He's in the top 10 now, and Jörg Tyen suddenly is 9 places down on his starting position.
Crikey, that is an interesting one because he's gone to the hard tyres again, but I would say he hasn't gone long enough to do a 2-stop.
No.
So if he's still 3-stopping at this point, then he's just, as you say, been undercut by everyone. So who knows how his strategy is going to look, but surely he's going to be very fast in the second half of this race, but he's going to have a lot of overtaking to do.
Let's talk about the health of the championship contenders here. I'm talking about the top 2 really, because Jake Dennehan, and actually we might be able to see it. I thought Owen McGorgy was going to go for the lead there. It's evident that the leading 2 are trying to stay away from the rest by helping one another really. As Manuel Biancalula gets himself down the inside of Michi Hoyer, that's too late on the brakes. He's just about pulled it up in time for the corner, but he doesn't pull it up in time to hold on to 7th position. So, the 2 championship contenders, Yannick Bock and Owen McGorgy, currently running in 2nd and 6th, respectively. Where do you read this race situation in terms of Yannick Bock at the moment? Because I can't get my head around, if he's not doing 1 stop less than Owen McGorgy today, why he didn't come in with them and try and use Dennehan's battle with Callas to jump ahead of Dennehan, because what he's effectively done is allowed himself to get undercut, and now he's going to have to overtake him on the road, which we know is really difficult.
Yes, I guess he just wants to have the pace at the end in that regard, but it's a more risky strategy, you would say, because right now he would be 4th behind Simoncic in that gap between Simoncic and Dennehan, and surely that's a better place than where he is now, even taking into consideration the strategy later too.
And as you say, it's no use having those fresher tyres at the end if you can't get through, and that's what we've seen so far. When Jake Dennehan is in defensive mode, he is difficult to overtake. Now, it's not going to be a Belgian Grand Prix situation, I don't think. I don't see that happening at the moment, not least because the 2 teammates are 5 seconds apart right now, but also it's a different circuit and different situation, and so many things are different, so that's not going to repeat itself, I don't think. But Jake Dennehan's defensive credentials haven't declined in the last 4 weeks, have they? So how is Yannick Bock trying to justify that with newer tyres when really it's going to be just as difficult as we're seeing here? I mean, Manuel Biancalula is on newer tyres compared to Michi Hoyer here, and he's not making it look easy. No,
certainly not. I do worry for Michi Hoyer's battery if he's going to defend for the full straight like it looked that time around. Or maybe Biancalula actually just wasn't burning all of his battery and just using the DRS to catch up. So an interesting game there, but Hoyer, of course, has now completely lost Yannick Bock, so no wonder he didn't do the hardest of defences in the world, because look at where Yannick has gone up the road. And to be honest, I think this is going to be this tail of this stint for Hoyer is going to be holding up these 5 drivers in behind. So it's funny how things change around. He's on the soft, he was the one making the moves, and now he's the one doing the defence.
Yeah, and he's having to put on quite a defence with the amount of cars that are right behind him. This is where I don't quite know where. Well, this is where I disagree with you with Jörg Tyen, in that I think he's absolutely doing a 2-stop here, and he's absolutely got to, because if he's doing a 3-stop, the amount of overtaking he's got to do on these hard compound tyres and the amount of traffic he's in right now would just not be viable with a 3-stop, surely.
But then he pit too soon.
You think?
I think he would have needed to be near a lap 20.
I suppose he was on the hards, wasn't he? I forgot, sorry.
Yeah, he was on the hards. So 20, 20 and 16 makes some sense, but then doing 17 only on that first stint, I think might be a little bit too less. Let's see how it works out though, because he's going to have the DRS on Isaac Hillison, who also has the DRS hard to the left-hand side from the Dutchman to defend. The outside the Norwegian goes. They leave each other just about enough space on the track, and now to the next right-hander. Time will have that inside line. He's going to get pinched on that sausage curb, but he gets a much better traction, much better exit, and gets the move finally.
Real-world F1 drivers could learn a bit by watching some of these battles, I've got to say, if I'm leaving each other room. Look how much better it is to watch when you give each other space on the racetrack. It's fantastic. Yoltai makes his way through on Isaac Hillison there to get back into the top 10 for the first time since his pit stop. So Alessandro Maggio next on his list, then Manuel Bianculula, who's still second in this group, and then it's Mitchell Hoyer, who is still 7th. Up ahead of them, Yannick Bock has now caught Sander Callas, so let's see how easily he makes this work, because this is sort of a marker of how his strategy is going to work. This is sort of the first experiment, if you like, of how his strategy is going to work. If he finds this overtake on Sander Callas difficult, I don't see how all the other overtakes for him to get to where he needs to be are going to be any easier. So he needs to make this look easy, effectively.
Yeah, fortunately for him, Callas was one of the early pitters, so there's a good tyre differential between them. Can he get the exit? Oh, he's using a bit of boost there up towards the hairpin as well. He's trying to get as close as he can and should be able to get the exit. Nice. Yeah, a bit of a wiggle there from the ground effect, and this should be a slam dunk move. Very
nice exit there. He took the perfect line onto the back straight. He's not even got DRS yet, and he's already pulling alongside. Yannick Bock powers through, and Sander Callas knew the game was up there completely. Decided to save his battery, and it's probably the wise idea to do that too. I don't think Jake Denner had to be too pleased to see that in his rearview mirror. Why couldn't you have defended like that for me? But no, he didn't. He lets Yannick Bock through in the end because the exit was too much to defend from, probably even if he had tried. So Yannick Bock into 5th position. Maybe he is correct to go for the overtaking strategy. I always just get very nervous about strategies which rely on a lot of overtakes, because then you're adding variables which in my opinion didn't need to be there. But if he's comfortable with it, then he's comfortable with it, and he's executing it for the moment.
Obviously he's going to have a bit of a tyre advantage at this point in the race as well, so this is his fastest point of the stint as such, and he needs to keep that one going. And realistically, he can just about see Simoncic up ahead, so he can still see the podium. It's not like he's dropped miles behind, and I do just wonder how he's going to go later in the race, because he went so long on the mediums. Does that mean he's going to try and use the softs at the end? But then, you know, everyone else pits so early. Are they then going to have to then maybe use the medium? So he might have another strategy advantage at the end, but who knows? Because Jake Danahan hasn't had the stint that he would have wanted, so it's a bit hard to tell in this exact battle right now.
Well, if he does the same length of stint again to what he did in the first stint, he'll have, what, 24 laps to go? 2:16s is the, yeah, so 24 to go at the end of the stint. And here we go. Battle for the lead for the first time. Dennis Jordan having to defend for the first time properly here, as Owen McGorgy's hard tyres begin to cross over with Dennis Jordan's aging medium tyres. Don't forget, he's been on those for about at least 10 laps at this stage already, and he's having to defend now through into the very slow left-hander at turn 16. Owen McGorgy looking to switch back and move to the outside now. It's a very long run round the outside here, but he could switch back again and get alongside him by the penultimate corner. No, that's the first warning signs though for Dennis Jordan, who's beginning to struggle on his tyres.
I'll tell you what, I'm feeling it from McGorgy today. I think he's in a very strong position. If he can get past Dennis Jordan, I reckon he can probably pull away as well towards the end of the stint, because Dennis is going to have to do at least 15 laps you would expect as a bare minimum, with it being a 56 lap race. If divided by, call it 60 lap race divided by 4, it's 15 laps roughly each stint you need to do. So he's got to go a few more, and let's see how this one works out, because McGorgy is all over the back of him. I don't know if Dennis is even going to be able to defend by the time we get to the straight.
Well, I think the crucial thing was for McGorgy is get there before and get through before Simoncic gets there, but I think that's too late already, because Verne Simoncic is right in his rearview mirror already, although maybe not very close. So if he gets it done this lap, I think he'll still be pleased with the race situation, and of course the fact he's on hards, he may well just continue to pull away again and again. You're right, by the way, if Jordan does 3 15-lap stints to the end of the race, he will get to the end on pure medium tyres. Wonder if that's his strategy for the remainder, but that means he needs another 4 laps or so after this one. Ewan McGorgy is not going to wait that long. He's going to move to the inside. Oh my goodness me! That was unbelievable! Such a small gap on the inside for the potential championship leader at the end of the day. Ewan McGorgy risked his entire title for that move for the lead, but he's got it done on lap 22.
And that was the lap he needed to do it, because as you say, Jerne Simicic is right in behind, and to be fair, Yannick Bock in the background has got Jake Dennehan as well. So it's all change in this battle inside the top 5, and now you've got Yannick Bock chasing them down, and it is going to get even more tense between these guys. How Dennis Jordan kept that car in a straight line as well. He had a huge wiggle on, and he uses his opportunity to come down the pit lane. This is so early for a 3-stop. He's going to have to go really long in these stints.
Well, he's going to have to go hards. He's got to put the hards on now for a couple of stints, I would imagine. This could be a very slow end to the race, I'm afraid, for Dennis Jordan, who it will wait to see what tyres are actually on that car, because I wouldn't believe that graphic just for the moment. He will be in traffic as well, which will be the internal problem for Dennis Jordan in this race. But that was one of the most unbelievable moves I've ever seen on the back straight there at Circuit of the Americas. Ewan McGorgy, with a title on the line, squeezed his car down the most impossible gap down the left-hand side. Now, Dennis Jordan pushed him to the absolute limit there, and no further. If he had gone any further to the left there, he would have fed McGorgy into the wall, and he would have had the world, at his feet, but not in a good way. He would have had a lot of criticism coming his way. Have a look at this again. Ewan McGorgy sees the gap to the left, he sees the defence, but thinks there's still space here. There just about is. And to be fair, Dennis Jordan does edge him off the road. Just about he keeps 2 wheels on. But if he hadn't, it doesn't matter, because he's being forced off the road. But what's going on the right-hand side of that camera shot there, the wheel work that's happening there at 350 Ks is unbelievable. Have a look at the wheel work here from Dennis Jordan. 7th gear, left-hand side of the road, multiple corrections. I've never seen anything like that. That was unbelievable.
You still got it stopped in the corner as well. So these guys really know how to fight, and that is quite something. So of course we're going to see the 2 stay out at the front. So Dennis is going to get a big undercut. Where is he in the traffic now? He has got a couple of cars up ahead. It says he's still on the mediums, but he only went 12 laps, was it, on that last set? He's got a long way to go. He's got 32, 33 laps to do in total. He really has some struggles, I think, towards the end of this race. Yeah. And, I mean, look at Yannick Bock now. He's less than 4 seconds off the lead. He's only got 2 cars in front of him.
I mean, I don't see a way in which Jordan does this without making 4 stops, to be honest with you. But that's surely too many. We saw Racecrutch try 4 stops at the German Grand Prix back at round 3. They finished 5th and 6th that day. That's low down for them. That was McGorgy's worst finish of the season, apart from Bahrain, of course. But I'm kind of discounting, because for whatever reason, Bock and McGorgy were just a bit average on that day, and they've been very not average ever since. So I don't really know what was happening on that day. But anyway, it was a bizarre strategy from Racecrutch. It didn't happen. I mean, I'd be surprised if Jordan's doing that, but I don't see a way in which this strategy works otherwise.
I'm trying to think as well.
Trying to justify it.
Because I kind of see why he jumped down pit lane, though, because he didn't want to get battles with Simicic and then lose time, blah, blah, blah. He's obviously struggling a little bit with the tyres. But it's going to be on the edge now. He's going to have to go hards in that final stint to make the 3-stop work, when I think all the others will be at least on the mediums, if not the softs, in that final stint. So, tough one. We're looking at how the race is playing out. He should still probably get a top 5, but it's certainly not an easy one.
I'm gonna put my hat in the ring and say Dennis Jordan's not getting a top 5 from this race. I would say he's got the pace to, for sure, but I just don't think the strategy lines up at all with what he's trying to achieve at the moment. He'll be back in the lead again before the race's end. I've got no doubt about that either, but I just don't think he'll finish in the top 5. It's all well and good leading lap 30, but if you're not leading lap 56, then it doesn't really count for very much, unfortunately, for Dennis Jordan, who is staring down the barrel of having his first full season in the SimRacing World Championship without winning a race.
Well, he has got another race and a half to try and work out. Grankfest, who's had an amazing race, I think everyone could say that. Oh, big chunk of the anti-cut goes for a spin, and he is going to be out of the race due to that one. So not ideal from the driver who's leading the championship a few races ago.
No, a real shame to see the way that his season has ended. As we said at the earlier on in the broadcast, just 12 points since March for Jan Krankwist, since he was on top of the championship going into that third round of the season at the German Grand Prix. Back on board we go with not a German, despite the helmet, of Alessandro Maggio. The Italian making his way down the inside very nearly of the 6th position, and somehow Michi Hoyer is still at the head of this train. It's now been given over to Maggio instead of Manuel Biancalula to try and get past him.
It's I don't know. It's a good job. I did say about 5 laps ago I was worried for his battery, but it's clearly still working.
Yeah.
Because he's able to keep them behind with no DRS, no slipstream from the cars ahead. So definitely a great job from the German at this point of the race, who was about P12 or something he was at one point in the first stint. And now he is in 6th place, so it's working out rather nicely. Denahan is in the pit lane. Interesting on the hard compound tyres. There's also 30 laps to go from him as well. So everyone's pitting a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but maybe they're just all reacting because Dennis has done these earlier stops in both of these stints so far, although Jordan has gone way up the road from Jake.
Yeah, Denahan's not racing Jordan. I think that's a pure move to try and get ahead of Bock again, to be honest, from Denahan. Did Callas come in? Well, I wasn't watching as well. I guess he must have done, since he's down in 12th again now. Thomas Vack, by the way, not really involved in this, although he is 11th. He's only made 1 stop so far today, to my knowledge. Good to see him back in the World Championship, though, Thomas Vack. I think it's his first appearance of the season. It's not, actually. Sorry, it's second.
I was going to say, I have a feeling, was it last race?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I wasn't there, though, so that's why.
Oh, yeah.
That's why, yeah.
Definitely swear I've seen his name before. Of course, he's been around for a little while. He's driven for a couple of different teams. Good to see him back and reserving for Go Team Racing. Unfortunately, Matthias Starr, it looks like he's not going to be finishing the season, so there'll be someone else in that car when we come to Japan in a couple of weeks' time. But not too bad of a position. Of course, this team has a podium with Patrick Sevitt back in Imola.
Yep, what a great performance that was from him. The only driver to get on the podium other than Yannick Bock, Owen McGorgy and Jake Denahan since the middle of April. Quite a remarkable statistic, but one that reflects greatly on Patrick Sevitt and his efforts in only 3 appearances in the World Championship this season. You're absolutely right, Thomas Vack was there at the Belgian Grand Prix as well, making today's 17th appearance in the World Championship of Formula Sim Racing. McGorgy into the pit lane then, handing the lead over to Ewan Simičić, whose teammate Michi Hoyer is also into the pit lane. McGorgy drops off the jacks and will get going. He will hope ahead of Thomas Vack and in clean air.
Absolutely. Let's see where McGorgy comes out. Looks like he is going to be obviously behind Jordan, but he's going to be okay in terms of the track position, so he can now chase him down. So Jordan did gain a good couple of seconds from that, actually, with another undercut. But once again, McGorgy is going to chase him down, hopefully not have any more contact on the back straight, and then we'll see where we get to for the next and final pit stop for those drivers in some 10-15 laps time.
So, where's Yannick Bock going to come out in relation to his main championship rival then? Because Owen McGorgy's battling for a race win with the likes of Ewan Simičić, maybe Dennis Jordan too, although I've got my reservations about that. Is Bock going to be behind Denahan, behind Hoyer, behind Hillison even? You know, he's again, all well and good having fresh tyres at the end, but he can't afford to bet himself too deeply in traffic late on.
Yeah, traffic might be the aim of the game, because we are actually seeing the field be rather close together. If you look on the track map, everyone from the fast right hand of turn 18 now all the way back just to the hairpin end of the back straight, like that's where the majority of the cars are, and they're all still fairly close. We've still got this huge battle behind Maggio going down to his teammate Lahu there. So crazy stuff here at COTA, just showing you how, even though it's a bit of a tight, twisty track, quite a difficult track, the lap times are actually rather close, like we saw in qualifying.
Very good to see as Maggio makes his way into the pit lane, stops on the marks, and gets going again in a few minutes' time. There he goes, looking for a second top 10 in a row after he made his season debut last round. And he made his World Championship debut as well, with a 9th place finish at Spa There goes Mitchy Hoyer. He will be ahead because he was ahead anyway, and he got the undercut. Through goes Hillison, though. He's been quietly making his way through the field. Oh, has he gone through? Just about. Had to go a bit wide in towards turn 1, but makes it through. Stealthily climbing his way through the field without really making any overtakes, just making undercuts. And now he's ahead of Maggio. Will probably be ahead of Biancalilla. We're probably second in line in the Mitchy Hoyer train, which he's beginning to create.
The Mitchy Hoyer train. I'm sure that has a ring to it. So, yeah, for Hillison, he's had a bit of a quiet race, but I would say it's starting to work out for him. It's starting to come back. Should be inside the top 10 at the end of the race. Just let's see how far up they could get. I guess it depends what happens up ahead with the likes of Jordan and Co, and then how this big battle with Maggio, although he's just come to the pit lane, Biancalilla, how far they go, etc. to the end. Definitely a lot of questions still to be had. And once again, we've seen the tyre strategies sort of be very inconsistent throughout all of the drivers and what they think is the fastest way to get to the end.
We're about to get to halfway, by the way. 28 laps of the 56 complete, and Joni Simicic is going to reach halfway while in the pit lane. Maybe that says a lot about his strategy so far. Maybe he's done the first bit of his strategy. He's just going to do what he just did again. But we'll see whether that comes true or not. Bock and Tyne will go through because Biancalilla and Braxop come in as well. It will be just those who have already made 2 stops who get through on him now. So Dennis Jordan, who gets through by some distance. Oh, McGorgy then a couple of seconds behind him. Joni Simicic slots in side by side with Sander Callis. Callis, not even side by side, in fact, Callis gets through into what may become 3rd place.
Callis is having a good race. We haven't really spoken about him. Maybe he is going to be another driver to get on the podium this season. The issue is for him, similar to Dennis, is they're doing this early pit stop thing, and I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work out. We have seen from the likes of Hoyer that overtaking and defending is, it's an interesting thing around here, but let's see how this works at Callis, because look how later on the brakes Simicic was. He's going to be flying past, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Bock make overtakes look easy. We've seen Hoyer make defending look easy. I don't really know what to believe at the moment. As we have a look to see whether he'll open up the letterbox, he certainly does, and Joni Simicic flies on through. Callis picking his battles today, and he knew that the one with Dennehan was important. He knows that this one is not so much. To be fair, Callis' battle with Dennehan didn't look very much like a good idea at the time, I must admit, but I didn't want to criticise him for it because, it's just racing for track position. In the end, you can't really criticise anyone for something they're all legitimately allowed to do. But it's making a lot of sense now. Look at where Callis is compared to Dennehan, and you start to realise, actually, that was quite an important pass.
Oh, it certainly was. Otherwise, Dennehan would have been on the back of McGorgy, and they would be way, way, way up the road. So you are very correct in that regard. And to be honest, when you're a team and a driver who's not really in contention at the front, when you can slow down the leaders a little bit and maybe have the opportunity for another position or two at the end of the race, of course you're going to do it, because it is just a free game. At that point, he was completely within his rights to do that attacking manoeuvre, and it's certainly working out for him. Yannick Bock obviously still out there. He's got Jarl Tyen in behind, who we thought his strategy may not work, but if he's behind Bock, then maybe it will.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by this gap for the lead at the moment. I really am, because it's not lining up with the other measurements I've got in my head. The fact that Tyen's so close, because in my head, Tyen comes out about halfway down the Hoyer group, but Bock comes out a couple of seconds ahead. Now that doesn't work out. Both of those things can't happen. So which of them is going to happen? Is Bock going to find himself in the Hoyer group? And in my opinion, that would be a complete disaster for the championship leader. Or is Tyen going to find himself ahead of the Hoyer group? In which case, that's an absolute delight for the Norwegian. It's either going to be disappointment for one or delight for the other. I'm not sure which one it's going to be just yet.
Well, it's the Maggio group. As he gets past Hoyer. In the background as well, Hillison goes behind Biancalilla, so Hillison is dropping down a couple of positions in that group. So Maggio is pushing, and this could be crucial. So look at him, he's 22 seconds off Bock. He's around 20 seconds or so is the pit delta. So let's see just how good in and out of the pit lane Bock is going to be. Is that Tyen as well? Yep. So Tyen, to be fair, his strategy, I think, might just be coming back to him a little bit. But let's see where they are on pit exit.
I don't think Bok could have left that another lap. I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. I don't think he could have left that another lap. Maggio coming up the straight then. I don't think he's quite going to get there in time. And no, Bok has timed that very well. Bok has timed that to perfection. He's back out in 6th position again and now has got to chase down those ahead of him all over again. Maggio gets out ahead of Tired with Mitzi Hoyer chasing him down. The old Tired strategy, as you say, is coming back to him here. He has 26 laps to go on the exit of the pit lane there. He can hammer these tyres home from the end here, whereas the others will be wary about making them last in the 53-degree heat.
Yeah, absolutely. So the pitting later strategy now it's going to involve some overtakes. So Bok needs to chase 3 seconds to Denahan, then another second to Callas just to be in 4th place, and then another couple of seconds to Simčić. So he's got a lot to do in the final couple of stints, but he is going to be very fast indeed. It's to the front. The top two are battling once more off the track. They're squeezing each other. McGorgy, for one moment, it got to the lead, but Jordan's got it back.
Well, that was aggressive from Jordan. Didn't afford McGorgy a lot of room on the outside there. And now McGorgy goes to the inside. There's contact. And he spins. McGorgy goes for a spin at turn 16. Unbelievable. As he tried to take the lead away from Dennis Jordan. He tried to make a ploy for the championship lead on the penultimate round. And he's gone for a spin at turn 16. Unbelievable. Let's have another look at what happened. It all started on the way towards turn 12 as he was trying to get through on Dennis Jordan for the first time. We saw great drama on the back straight previously. Jordan made sure to fully shut the door this time round. McGorgy got to the outside. He wasn't given any room there at all, I've got to say. I think that frustrated him. And then into these next corners, he went to the inside. In the end, it was a late move to the inside. He was kind of sliding the whole way through. The final bit of contact sealed the deal, and Ewan McGorgy has dropped 3 places in that and possibly dropped the chance to take the championship lead tonight.
I'm telling you what, I'm definitely glad we saw it on the replay, because initially I was like, oh, that's not ideal there going in towards the left-hander, but McGorgy really just sent it a little bit too late there, locked the rears, and he was sliding all the way into the corner, so he kind of did it to himself. And he now needs to be careful because his tyres aren't going to be in the best of conditions, but he also is now in a position where he needs to push. As actually to the front, Jordan is having some issues because now Simčić goes through. Wow,
Simčić goes straight through. That is a surprise to see. Jurnej Simčić gets back into the lead, and maybe the 4-time champion is going to be the race winner of this one after all. I'd kind of written him off as he was having a fairly quiet few moments in the race, but not anymore. Jake Denahan now ahead of Sander Callas again, who's starting to struggle because of his strategy, but Ewan McGorgy needs to get through as quickly as possible because Yannick Bok is seeing his championship rival right ahead of him. And look at the dirty air there for McGorgy. There's the look back. The championship rivals are together on the circuit again.
And not in P1 and 2, but P5 and 6, a little bit different for them, but the same objective is to beat each other. And I don't know how the world works in this way, but these two have found themselves on the track at basically every race this season. Yeah. And it was just perfect that the exact timing of McGorgy's spin and the exact time it took him to get back on the track was enough that Bok is the car that he's going to be next to for the next few laps.
The most amount of positions these two have finished apart this season is 4. That is an unbelievable season of close racing between the two of them, and they've not exactly been winning in second of the entire season. They have all had great records, of course. The two of them have only finished off the podium twice in 8 races so far, but they've at maximum, at most, finished 4 positions apart. But here they are again, nose to tail. Ewan McGorgy trying to become the first British champion of the Formula SimRacing World Championship for 7 years. Yannick Bok trying to become champion for the first time as well. Here goes Ewan McGorgy. This time he gets past Sander Callas a lot easier.
Yeah, Callas after that battle with Jake has been a little bit easier on the aggression levels, and that was not too bad for McGorgy. So now Bok needs to get through as well, because he's been in this position where he now needs to do some overtakes, and this is one of them. But also McGorgy has had that spin and his tyres aren't going to be quite as good. Plus, Bok had a tyre advantage anyway, so there's double ticks all going in the way of Bok at this moment, but he just needs to not lose too much time now that he's stuck behind the ground effect car.
Into the final corner. Look at this race in isolation, by the way. Manuel Biancalula's in 9th, and he's 8.4 seconds off winning the thing. Lap 34 we go, and Dennis Jordan pulls into the pit lane again. 23 laps to go at the end of this one. I do not see how he's going to the end on these tyres.
Full stop. It looks like, I don't know if that is what he intended this race, but his tyres have not lasted, I'm not going to lie, have not lasted how long he would have wanted. Bocca's got through on Callas. Important overtake, because he's now back into 4th place. And Jordan having one stop to go the same as everyone else. He's going to be out of it. So really it is 4th place that Bocca is looking at. And now he just needs to chase down and try and beat at least one of the race clutches to claw some points back from them.
Oh, side by side in the background, Yao Tyan knows that this is the time to go as well. Yao Tyan could be a podium contender here, you know. He had such a slow start to the race. I'm not least talking about his actual getaway from the line, but actually the first stint as well. He came out in 11th after the first pit stop cycle. But now, all of a sudden, he's 5th place. He's probably quicker than all 4 ahead of him. He's just got to do the actual work of catching and passing now. And it's whether he can do it over the last 22 laps, and I believe he can. Just up further forward, by the way, Ewan McGorgy got past Jake Dennehan. Just to give you an idea of the point system again, a refresher. If things were to end as they are, the situation would actually reverse, and Ewan McGorgy would be the championship leader. As meanwhile, that was Alessandro Maggio making a rash move down the inside, and Sander Callas is furious.
I have no words for that move from Maggio. That was not going to work. It didn't work, and Callas is not happy about that one. That was quite something as Callas dives into the pit lane to avoid that one. But what on earth was going on there from Maggio?
He is absolutely livid, seething. Yeah, Sander Callas. Let's have a look at this on board. Might help us to understand. Alessandro Maggio. Well, he's just come in with a lot too much speed. I mean, look he's barely made the gravel himself. Never mind Callas, who comes back, swipes across him on the way back through. His wheel work afterwards says all you need to know. He sort of half defends here, which normally puts the driver off behind, but not on this occasion.
Maggio was coming into a left-hander, turning right. So yeah, not the ideal situation for the Italian there. So yeah, we do like Alex, but that was not a proud moment of his. As Bocca is on the back of Jake Dennehan, and this is an important point in the race. Hard to the left from Dennehan to defend. This
is going to be quite a defence from Jake Dennehan. He's going to have to be the best teammate in the world here for Ewan McGorgy if he can. He defends to the inside. He'll try and squeeze but Bocca as much as he can to the right, who breaks very, very late. Bocca here, and he's not given room on the outside. He'll retain the place, and he will feel justly as well. In these final few corners, he will have to defend more, though. Here goes Jake Dennehan to the inside. Will he? No. He decides not to. I think he's going to leave that to the stewards afterwards, but I don't see where Yannick would have gone otherwise.
Yeah, this is another interesting move down at the corner at the end of the back straight. Let's see this from Jake Dennehan's point of view. Of course, Bocca is going to be to the outside. Gets a decent way ahead, actually a whole car length ahead, but way late on the brakes from Dennehan. Barely makes the corner. So yeah, I think as you called it, probably Bocca should feel okay with that one. So late on the brakes, and fair, he did need to try and hold on to that. Oh, yeah. But let's see with this, because I think we go back to live. There's some battles. Yeah, it is. The old tying up the inside into turn 1.
Yeah, I don't think Dennehan can have any complaints about the Bocca move there, and he's not going to have any complaints about this one either. Yao Tyan just steaming through, and it's side by side. Oh, not quite into the S's. Yao Tyan makes his way up to 4th place. What a drive this is from the Norwegian. Can't believe what I'm seeing from Yao Tyan today. 4th place now, 7 seconds off Jone Simicic, who I think is gone and absolutely won this race at the moment, but he's still got another 20 laps to execute before he can fully crown himself as a race winner all over again in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Ewan McGorgy 4.5 seconds back, 1 second back to Bocca, another second back to Tyan, who's just overtaken Dennehan and put another second into him, then a second back to Biancalula. This is a crazy race. What drama we're seeing in round 9 of the World Championship. Spectacular action and so many contenders for the race win.
Yeah, look at the track map. The section comes into the back straight. Look how many cars are there. We are seeing one of the closest races I remember in the World Championship. However, guess who's out the front by a decent margin now is Jone Simicic. He always seems to find himself up towards the front when we see races like this. Was it Hockenheim potentially? I think it was, where it was a similar one where he was just out the front by himself and the others having issues and doing interesting strategies. So it does come his way sometimes, despite not having the season that he would have wanted. So we're at 36.20 to go. and it is certainly heating up out there on the track.
He took his 31st pole position earlier on, Yoni Simičić. He's trying to take his 31st win as well to keep those two statistics lined up perfectly as far as Formula Sim Racing World Championship competition goes. In towards turn 1 again for the leaders, and for the first time in a couple of laps we can just breathe for a moment, but it's not going to last very long. Yannick Bock is catching Ewan McGorgy. The two championship rivals are about to lock horns again. If they finish as they are, they would go into the final race tied on points.
Love it. Wow, what an interesting race that we've seen, and it, to be honest, is the race that I was expecting with how things have been over the last couple of races, with how we're looking in the championship, and the fact that there is just one round to go. It is heating up, and it's actually cooled down a little bit on the track by a few degrees, but it's still very hot conditions out there. The tyres are sliding around, and we're seeing 3-stop strategies and drivers just pushing the limit, and it's been a fantastic, well, not say fantastic, but fascinating race so far.
Absolutely has. A sensational race. How could you not love this? Absolutely wonderful. It's round 9 of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship for 2024. 3 drivers in championship contention, although Jake Dennehan, as things stand, going to fall out of that. It's really between Ewan McGorgy and Yannick Bock, who, if things were to stay as they are right now, would go into the final race at Suzuka in 2 weeks' time, absolutely tied on points. What a situation we've got. We had to wait 8 years after we saw a spectacular finale 10 years ago at this very venue in the 2014 World Championship for what was eventually a spectacular end to the 2022 season as well, as Colin Spork stole the title away from Alex Siebel by 1 position in the end on the very final race of the season. Well, it looks like we are not going to have to wait another 8 years for our championship fight. It looks like we might get a championship finale only 2 years later between these two. Great drivers, and new drivers indeed, to the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. From two nations who haven't had any success in the World Championship for quite some time. Great Britain haven't won it since 2017. Germany haven't won since 2009 in the World Championship. It's been a very, very long time. Yannick Bock trying to end that drought now in amongst a mist of very successful German drivers in the field. He's trying to go above them all and win the title. This would go a long way to achieving it. If he can make this move on his main rival, down in towards turn 12, McGorgy has to defend. Bock not quite as far alongside as he was alongside Dennehan, so he goes for the cutback instead. Side by side into 13. He's a long way alongside. There's contact! Bock goes around! Unbelievable! The championship rivals collide, and Yannick Bock goes for a spin at turn 13.
And fortunately for him, he's kind of okay. And similar to with McGorgy's spin earlier, he's only lost a few seconds, but crucially, with how close everyone is, they've lost loads of positions, and their tyres are going to be hurting for about half a lap until they cool down. So once more, this race just keeps on giving, and McGorgy drops to 5th as well with all of that.
Well, where do we go from here? How did that all even happen? Yannick Bock got the cutback on the exit of turn 12. He went to the outside. He will feel as if he's been tipped. I don't think McGorgy quite had full control of his car there. I think he was sliding in the turn. Let's have a look. On board. He's missed the apex. He's sliding. Now, I'm not sure how much blame you can actually put on him there when he is actually sliding, because he's missed the apex. He's trying to get to the turn, but clearly the tyres don't have the grip.
Yeah, this is a tight one. This is tough to go side by side. I tell you what, there is a bit of contact there, and then McGorgy tries to save it, and unfortunately, the worst part is this next bit of contact where he hits the rear wheel. That for Bock, that's very unfortunate. That's a side pod. He might have been okay, but yeah, they do continue on just about in this race, and Bock had to wait. The issue for Bock was he had to wait for a couple of cars there to go through. And then I think that was Maggio just coming around the outside as well. So really tough situation in the race. We come back to live pictures, and what are we going to be finding ourselves? So Bock is still going. He's got back ahead of Maggio, actually. And importantly, he's ahead of this train. Imagine if he went behind that train, his race would be done. He might still be able to save a podium from here.
Yeah, if he didn't slip out just ahead of Maggio there, he would have had to wait for that entire train, right the way back behind Alex Lehert back at the end in 10th place there, and that would have been disastrous for Yannick Bock. So he does get back on the circuit in good time. Would you believe it? Because of the fact they both lost positions, that bit of contact means that Yannick Bock now would retain the championship lead going into the final round, albeit by only 1 point. It's a remarkable situation. Either way, whether it's 1 point or whether they're tied on points, the situation is looking more and more likely, at least at the moment in this stint of the race, that they could go into the final race knowing that whoever finishes ahead of the other will win.
And what a fascinating prospect that is. Oh my word, what a season. How close of a championship can you get? It's crazy. The pace that these guys have had, the fact you said that basically they're only 1 or 2 positions apart, basically every race as well. They've just been identical over the course of the season. So we come back to a situation though where now McGorgy is behind Biancalilla and his teammate Denahan. And of course, Denahan's not really going to fight him, is he? But Biancalilla, coming back from a difficult mid-season, trying to have a good finish, he's not going to be giving anyone a position.
Yes, I think the week off for him at the Belgian Grand Prix has been good, actually. He's come back revitalised, re-energised, and he looks good on the circuit of the Americas today. Into the final corners now. It's difficult to know what to do if you're Jake Denahan here. He's trying to help McGorgy in whatever way he can, but is he going to help by letting them both through? Does he want to keep Biancalilla back so that McGorgy can overtake him and then he'll let his teammate through? I don't really know what the best idea is here.
Yeah, tough one. As just noticing in the background, Maggio's lost a position to Hoyer, so he did manage to get through earlier, but Hoyer's now coming back in the second half of the stint, and look how close everyone is in behind there. The 2 Optimals inside the top 10, and McGorgy comes in not, really anything other than you'd expect, because there's 15 laps to go, well 16, and also because he had that spin, his tyres would be a little bit more cooked.
I guess it's got to be hard tyres then to the end. Could try and take mediums, I suppose. Bock took mediums this far, so not impossible, but I think it might have to be hards for McGorgy. That graphic says it is for the moment, but we'll wait and see on that front. Sander Callis and Dennis Jordan are ahead of him, but again Dennis Jordan finds himself in traffic. The eternal problem for Dennis Jordan, to be honest, in this race, the 4-stop strategy. You just have to make far too many overtakes and there's far too little time gain. Although I suppose he is 13 seconds ahead of McGorgy. That is more than half a pit stop.
Of course, McGorgy just had that little spin to add a couple of seconds. But, Dennis Jordan has the same amount of stops, remember, as everyone else ahead, but he's going to be very fast. Look at these 3 cars, the 2 Optimals going side by side, trying to have a battle. So that's Lahou getting past Maggio. And then in behind, we're going to see Braxog try and make a move himself up the inside. It's going to be Dennis Jordan trying to get involved in the fight. Braxog actually backs out of that one. It might open up the door for the Ferrari in the background to get through, but somehow they all stay in the same order.
Somehow, yeah. And Dennis Jordan probably should have tried to take at least one place there in all of that, and he's even looking at turn 16 for a move. Maggio was very aware of that and tried to defend. He's really plummeted here, Maggio. He's now helping his teammate Alex Lahou somehow.
Those tyres are cooked, I think.
Yeah, the roles have reversed entirely. He's almost kamikazed himself here to try and hold everybody else back, including Jonas Braxog, who will still be waiting for his final pit stop, of course. We are in the window now where you can pit and make it to the end, and Denahan and Biancalilla will be doing just that. They'll be getting out just in behind Owen McGorgy. I think that's the best, perfect possible situation for race coach as they try to order their 2 cars.
Yes, let's see exactly what the gap is going to be. Is 1 lap going to be enough? It's going to be very close, actually, as we come up towards turn 1. But no, McGorgy is going to get ahead by about half a second, maybe a second once they accelerate out of turn 1. And actually, that is going to be a nice gap. And that was an easy way of reversing those positions. So McGorgy effectively gaining 2 places there. And he's now on the attack and trying to just see what he can recover from this race.
Yeah. So into the battle for 5th again. Maggio ahead of Braxog, ahead of Jordan. Looked out well for Race Coach behind, but they're still quite a way away from this, and in fact they won't really have to battle with these guys, I don't think. Here goes Braxog through. Dennis Jordan has to follow through. Probably has to take both here, but Braxog's not going to let him do that. Maggio will let them both through, but Jordan wants to go through on the outside and will do here. Sweeps right round the outside, bit of contact, but he'll get away with that. And he is up to 5th place. That was an important pass. He needs to really turn the afterburners on now. Try and get to the part of the race at the end here where he might be able to put some softs on again.
Yeah, I think he will do on that 4-stop. He'll have enough laps to be able to do that. I think you are correct. And for this batting behind, I thought Denahan was going to send it past Biancalilla on that first time of asking on this stint, but no, he is going to be all good in the end with that one.
As Yoltain, nearly 4 seconds behind Jone Simicic. What's the odds on this one at the moment? Jone Simicic getting caught by Yoltain and overtaken for the race win here. It's a long stretch, isn't it? But it's not impossible. Yoltain's driving beautifully at the moment.
He certainly is. What a race the Norwegian has had as they... I mean, it wasn't the best start, actually, was it, from time?
No.
Nor really the first stint. The first round of pit stops didn't work out his way. But it's coming back, as we see Maggio come out of the pit lane there in P14. And things have really spread out at the front in terms of the gaps. Simicic has got a pretty solid lead as it stands.
We're waiting for the main pit stops here from this front three, really. And then we'll have more of an idea of where everybody is and what we can start to expect from the final part of this race. I think McGorgie's come out the other side of his incident with Yannick Bock a lot better than the championship leader has, I've got to say. McGorgie comfortably ahead of Biancalilla and Denahan, who will also be ahead of Bock. Hillison might well be. Hoyer will be challenging him. And all of a sudden, Bock's strategy really relied on a clean race, clean overtakes and high speed. But if you're making a spin and have it getting an incident like what he got involved in, that kind of gets taken away from you. And I think he's in a very tricky situation at the moment.
Yeah, I think Bock probably should have done what McGorgie did and back out of the strategy where he's probably going to try and go to softs at the end and just take the hards, because now McGorgie is getting a huge undercut as Tyne comes into the pit lane. So McGorgie's basically getting a huge undercut on Bock here, and he's already a couple of seconds up the road. So I think that was the one for McGorgie, and I think he might be able to still salvage a good haul of points, and I think he will be therefore probably leading the championship going into the final race.
There is Yoltain making his way out just behind Sander Callas, but if we take Jordan and Callas out because we believe they'll be making another pit stop, then Yoltain is in net second place, trying to get an undercut on Jone Simicic here. Now he's going to need quite a substantial one to make it into the lead, but he's going to give it a go. And if he can possibly make it, then he will try to. So, through the S's, he closes in immediately to the back of Callas. I think Callas has been very good in this race at realising when his battle is right to be fought and when it isn't. This is one of those occasions when it isn't, and I don't think he'll fight.
Yeah, Tyne's basically overtaking him at the start of the straight. You normally overtake at the end, and let's see how that one works out. He's actually too close really to get a slipstream, and either both using or both not using the push to pass as we come down in towards the braking zone, and he goes through rather nicely. But that was a little bit awkward there with the fact that he had no slipstream, but he's got it done into P5, and now trying to chase down Dennis Jordan. But Dennis does need to make another stop to go to the end, because realistically he's not going to do, was it 26 laps on the mediums or whatever it was. Jone Simicic though, he comes in, and with a 21 second gap to Tyne, there might be a little bit closer than he would have wanted, but he should still come out in the net lead.
Into the box and up on the jacks goes Simicic. Had to react to that really, but this is the key stop for the World Championship. Yannick Bock pulls in for the final time. Can he afford to go on softs or not? Out of the lane he goes now. McGorgie goes through. Biancalilla goes through. Denahan through. Hoyer will go past as well on the left-hand side, just about here on the way in towards turn number one. Oh, it's going to be close. Hoyer goes right on the outside and is through. Down the hill, he'll get the exit. And so Bock finds himself behind another driver. He really could have avoided having to overtake in these final 12 laps.
And he's basically 9 seconds behind McGorgie as well. So I think that pitting early onto the hards was the one for the English driver. Bock is going to be actually not just losing the championship lead, but he's going to be a decent chunk of points behind. Well, I say actually maybe 4 or 5 points behind if it finishes like this. But that is big in terms of things, because if it's more than 4 points as well, it means even if he wins the race, if McGorgie's P2, it won't be enough.
Let's see what we'll work out that situation after the race. But for now, Yannick Bock needs to make his way through. He is on soft tyres. He is on soft tyres, so it is going to be a push to the end from Yannick Bock. That's why he stayed out to the very end. He's down the inside of Hoyer. He's through very quickly, up to 8th position as McGorgy gets himself into 4th at the moment. As things stand, that would allow McGorgy a 7-point gain and a 4-point championship lead going into the next round. Of course, Jordan still yet to come in here, and that could give McGorgy another position. However, with Jordan and Callis coming in, Bock could gain 2 places. They could well both be making gains, and both of them are in right now for the final set of soft tyres.
Yes, this is final pit stop time of the race. The final stoppers they've had certainly inconsistent races, but let's see where Jordan is going to come out, because he is going to need a very fast finish here to the end. 10 laps, effectively 11 laps actually, including the one that they're on. He goes back behind Brackshock, so he's actually still inside the top 10, and it's going to be probably P8, because I'm assuming he's going to be able to get past Brackshock over the course of the next 10 laps, but certainly a bit different from the P1 that he was in earlier. Well,
Brackshock's on softs too, so they'll all be pushing here. I think Hoyer's going to have quite a job to defend again, but he's had enough practice in this race. He'll have to just repeat that and try and continue to defend. So, Yuri Simicic leads 2 seconds ahead of Yoltine. That's the battle for the lead that I don't think the championship leaders are going to touch. It's about, can Owen McGorgy hold everybody else back? First of all, Manuel Biancalilla, who's knocking on the door of a podium here and is looking pretty good for it at the moment with medium tyres. And then, more importantly, Yannick Bock, who first of all will have to overtake Jake Dennehan. As things stand, he's losing 8 points to Owen McGorgy in the championship.
So 5 points would be the gap at the end of this race. So even just getting Jake would be a good one, because that would put it down to 3 points, and in that situation it is a winner takes all. So that would be a very interesting prospect, but will he have enough to get to Biancalilla? I'm not sure. And of course Jake, after everything that's happened this race between the title contenders and their teammates and whatnot, it is going to be a tough defence, I would say, from Jake.
Yeah, I think so. Tough order, but he won't have too many laps to defend for here. The last lap time from Yannick Bock there was at 37.5, unsurprisingly his best, but 1.2 seconds quicker than Dennehan. Now, he'll need another few laps to actually get there, and by that time there'll be 6 laps to go maybe for Dennehan to defend with. When the edge of the soft tyres have been taken off, that could be a task that Dennehan might be able to complete. We'll wait and see on that front as we now go back to Manuel Biancalilla, who tries and tries again to get through on Owen McGorgy. Both using energy at this stage, both using all they've got to try and get this final podium place. Biancalilla pulls to the outside now. McGorgy defends, he slides into the corner, and Manuel Biancalilla is going to be able to get the cutback here. He's going to force him onto a very tight line. McGorgy wasn't comfortable there previously. He's done well this time though at turn 13. Side by side again towards 16. He's going to pull very wide here and try and get the cutback, but surely that's not going to work on the older, harder tyres, and it doesn't. Manuel Biancalilla makes his way through and back onto the podium again in 2024 for the first time since the end of March.
And this is what the championship needed. 3 drivers on the podium who aren't even in contention. So our 3 main rivals, McGorgy, Dennehan, Bock, they've been on the podium so many times, and now they're 4th, 5th and 6th due to the fact of everyone else around them having a very strong race. And this means that the points gap between them are so small now as well, because of course the bigger jumps are between P1, P2. Below that, just 1 or 2 points per position, and it's keeping everything very tight indeed. What move by Biancalilla. He had to really commit around the outside there in 14, but he made it work, and it might just get him the podium today.
First time all season this will be that either McGorgy, Dennehan or Bock hadn't finished on the podium. Every race so far, one of them has. This could be a first here at the US Grand Prix tonight. What a fantastic championship finale we're seeing here at the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Wonderful stuff. 1.5 seconds for the lead of the race, by the way, overall too. 6 seconds. 6 tenths of a second. 6 seconds would be impressive. 6 tenths of a second went the way of Yoltine that time round, and he is closing in on Yuri Simicic. We look back at Owen McGorgy now, who will be surely focusing on his mirrors mostly, putting the trust in his teammate Jake Dennehan to do the defending, because if Yannick Bock overtakes here and gets up into 5th position, he would then tie up the day and effectively put the two rivals level on points going on the final race.
Yeah, this is cool stuff to see how it is going to unfold. Bock started the day ahead of the two race clutch cars, but after the first lap he was in this situation. He was behind both of them. He did his best to try and get involved up with them, and unfortunately contact with McGorgy has put him behind once more, but he's on the soft compound tyres. He's already caught up a good chunk of time, and he is going to have enough laps to make this work. At least get Dennehan, and if he gets ahead, he should be able to catch down and at least have an overtake attempt at Owen McGorgy for 4th place. So he needs to do it correctly, because he needs to make sure that he doesn't have another incident with race clutch this season, because otherwise that could really hinder his title hopes coming into Japan in a couple of weeks.
You can't. The stakes here are absolutely massive. Can't get this wrong, Yannick Bock here. And of course we'll have all the stewards' decisions to come through as well. Will any positions be demoted or promoted after that? But we'll get to that, of course, after the fact. But for now, it's about what's on the racetrack. And with 7 laps to go, Yannick Bock has got a chance to tie up the title and send himself, along with Owen McGorgy, in with a chance in Japan in a couple of weeks' time. Here we go, on the back straight. Jake Dennehan using a lot of energy to begin with here as he tries to defend from the soft tyre but running German. Here we go on the outside, it's turn 12. Dennehan gives just about room. Bock stays just about on the road. He stays on the inside. He breaks a bit earlier this time. Maybe the scars of turn 13 previously rearing their head again, as he didn't make the overtake that time round. Decided maybe he didn't want to be side by side quite in the same way that he was with his teammate.
Yeah, definitely took a slightly conservative approach there, not wanting to get anything too crazy. And one thing I've just noticed, actually, we're up to a 2nd at the front. Jarl Tyron is definitely coming for this, so we're looking at the positions in the background for the championship, but for the race win, for the drivers not going for the championship, they just won those 25 points. It might be coming the way of the Norwegian.
What a story that would be for Jarl Tyron. As I mentioned before, he's only been at a couple of races so far this season. There's only eight. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I wasn't looking in the right place, but 7 laps to go as they've crossed the line here, and battle for 5th place continues.
Yeah, a bit of contact. Fortunately, Bock managed to save that one. He's got to be careful, though. And it might be at the point now where he's just a little bit kind of nervous of the situation. But he's definitely faster. He's definitely faster. He's going to have another opportunity to get through. But he just needs to make sure he does it at the right time. But as the laps go on, his chances of getting McGorgy now are pretty slim. I don't think he's going to have enough laps, even if he gets through now. But he just needs to make sure he gets this position on Jake at least.
I don't think he's going to do it this time. Jake's getting some very good exits off of turn 11. And Bock, I think, is going to save his energy and save his battery for another day here. For another lap, at least. So down in towards turn 12. He'll either dive in the final sector, or he will wait for another lap. But there will be a stage where these soft tyres begin to go off and the hards begin to make their case again, as they are doing in the battle between Biancalilla and McGorgy, who is not being dropped. He very much could still get a podium here.
Yeah, he is out of DRS though now, which is the crucial part. So I don't know if he's going to have enough. Biancalilla has been strong on the tyres all season, so I expect him to have them at the end of the stint. So I think it might just be gone for McGorgy, but stranger things have happened this race. That is for sure.
It certainly is. It's been one of the strangest and best races we've seen in the former SimRacing World Championship for quite some time. This is a replay of the attempted move a couple of laps ago now for Yannick Bock. Dennehan sliding a little bit, but I think he was honest there in trying to give enough room. Bock in the end, I think, was trying not to overtake off the circuit as well, really trying to avoid contact too. I don't think that incident at turn 13 last time has done his confidence any favours with battling side by side into that corner.
Because also, if he finishes in this position, he still has a strong chance for the championship as well. So it's not like this move is do or die, but obviously a point or a couple of points is a couple of points. So, 2 points it would be extra that he would close up. So that could be an important one, and look how close he is once more.
2 points behind us, things stand if the championship situation was to end as it is right now. But luckily we've still got 5.5 laps to go. on board with Yannick Bock as he tries to close in on the top 5. Jake Dennehan forced to take a slightly defensive line into turn 12. Went a little bit deep last time he did that. He pulled it up a bit better this time. Bock looks to the inside and so forces Dennehan into a slightly defensive line again. He might well do the same into turn 16 here as they just take some different lines. The beauty of the final sector at the Circuit of the Americas really showing its coming to the fore, but Bock not able to make it work, and I can just see the top edge of those tyres being weared away now or worn away, and those tyres are not quite as good as they used to be by any means. They're not quite as punchy compared to the hards as they were.
And in behind, we've still got Hoyer, Jordan, Braxshot coming in fast as well. So I would assume they're too far to get involved unless Bock and Dennehan start having a crazy battle. But still, just to note that they're only about 2.5 seconds behind. And Jordan, even on an interesting strategy, is still going to get top 8, maybe even a top 7 if he could just get inside the DRS of Hoyer.
Well, if he could just manage that. Let's see. Will those guys maybe play a role in this battle here? Will Bock even have to look over his shoulder? Well, he didn't put his soft tyres on too much earlier than Jordan and Braxshot, so you'd imagine if Bock starts to struggle for tyre wet, then they will too. Now, Dennehan has done a very good job of defending here by being fast in the right places. Clearly not as quick as Bock because of the tyre situation, but he's been very strong off of turn 11 every time. Again there you can see, look at the energy he's using as well. Bock's got to persist with this and just hope at some stage that Dennehan will run out of energy, because at the moment he's not getting anywhere near it. There goes Owen McGorgy through on Manuel Biancalula, and there he gains another few points to his championship cause.
And that could be very crucial indeed. Dennis Jordan's got past Hoyer in the background as well, so a few crucial moves, but for Yannick Bock, not the move he would have wanted. I think Biancalilla had another go down in towards the hairpin where he made that amazing move on the previous attempt, but this time not enough. McGorgy does get back through, and now it all comes down to the fact of Bock. Can he get past Jake Dennehan? This is going to be his only opportunity to make a place before the end of the race, but he might actually lose him with Dennis Jordan coming in hot behind.
Yeah, maybe turn 1's the better idea here. Bock was pretty close beforehand, and he's seemingly getting better runs off the final corner of the track rather than turn 11, which is the more conventional place to start getting runs and stop trying to make a move. 4 laps to go, including the one that we're on at the moment here for Bock. Very important, I think, for him to make this move. As things stand, with Owen McGorgy on the podium, it's very difficult to see Bock even going into the final race with parity at the moment with McGorgy. He's got to just reduce his deficit as much as possible.
And we need to look at Tyne as well, because he's on the edge. I think he might have been just too far for the DRS, but he was going to be close for the next lap, and he needs to be inside that DRS really to have the opportunity to overtake, because that is the best overtaking opportunity of this track.
Sorry, misreading there. I thought McGorgy was under a bit of pressure. He's certainly not. He's pulling away from Manuel Biancalilla. His teammate's under pressure though. Jake Dennehan pulls to the left-hand side. Yannick Bock now really going for this. He pulls to the right-hand side. He goes for it on the outside into turn 12, and he can't quite do it again. Jake Dennehan defends his 5th position, and now Yannick Bock will be getting very nervous as Dennis Jordan gets into 7th. He will be starting to look behind him as well as ahead.
And I've just been thinking, I think the reason why Bock's been getting the runs into turn 1, I think Dennehan is probably just saving all of his battery to use solely on that one straight to deploy as much as he can. They've got 3 laps to go before the end of the race, and he's going to have to save up enough battery to defend for those 3 more opportunities. Let's see it now, because the Ferrari of Jordan is coming in very, very quick behind. Actually, a little bit quicker than I was expecting. He is definitely going to get involved by the end of this race.
And Yannick Bock looks to the inside as well here, in towards turn number 1 with 3 laps to go. He's got to try and do something, and he knows that this next lap might be the last chance he's got before he gets attacked by Dennis Jordan. Through the S's he goes. He's got to stay as close as possible, even despite the dirty air that he'll be experiencing and suffering from at the moment. And he's really suffering with his tyres and dirty air at the moment, with Dennis Jordan having taken much better care of his soft compound tyres. He is right there as we look at the leaders. They are still single file. Tyne waiting for a later attack. Yannick Bock, though, under supreme pressure.
And this might be the move this time. He's a bit closer than he was last time, but once again, Jake gets the run off the corner. He pulls a car length or 2, and does he have the battery to defend all the way down the straight?
Let's see, he's starting to run out a bit, Jake, here. You can just tell he's starting to run out towards the end of the straight, but Bock not willing to dive down the inside. What that is doing, though, the fact that he is having to chase so hard, it's keeping Jordan at bay for the moment. And as I said earlier, Bock and Jordan are on similar age tyres at the moment.
They certainly are, and the train coming in the background, even Brackshock is getting involved. Is so awesome to see how close this race has been. But the fact that the top two are now 13 seconds behind McGorgy, I know McGorgy, has had a little bit of a spin, Bock too and whatnot, but that 13-second gap did kind of come out of nowhere a little bit. And as we are now onto the penultimate lap of the race, these are the battles to look at. We've got 6/10 between Simičić and Tyne, and then basically the same between Bock and Dennehan. But Dennehan is doing such a good job defending here.
He is doing a spectacular job, and Owen McGorgy is going to be shaking his hand firmly afterwards. Probably more than that, to be honest. Great defence from Jake Dennehan, who is falling out of championship contention today, by the way. Started the day 28 points behind Yannick Bock. Will actually close in on Bock, but he will obviously lose points to his teammate and be out of contention by tonight. And so it's all about his teammate. Since they've got the teams wrapped up as well, it is all going into Owen McGorgy, and he's getting all the corners that he needs to get right. Absolutely spot on here. Bock into turn 11. Can't do anything, surely. Let's have a look at the exit again from Jake Dennehan. Not quite as good as some of the other laps. Maybe this is the chance for Yannick Bock now on the penultimate lap of the race. He's closer than he has been before, but surely not close enough. It would have to be a dive, and I don't know if he's quite willing to make it. Here he goes, up the inside to turn 12. Dennehan gives him a little bit of room, but not so much that he lets Bock through. And he stays ahead. Dennehan's still 5th.
And on to the final lap it's going to be. Jarl Tyne, we haven't really spoken about him as much as he probably deserves this race. He's in P2. He had a difficult start. He dropped down, and he's now got one final lap to overtake Jerne Simičić. Simičić has had a calm race, but the Norwegian is coming in, and he needs one final overtaking opportunity to try and get past.
Well, he only needs one chance in theory, but can he make it happen? Jarl Tyne here on the fringes, possibly, of a historic day. He's never won in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Jerne Simičić has done it 30 times before. He's got it all wrong, I think, in the S's, though. The dirty air has really affected him through here.
Yeah, look at the understeer that he had. He might just be too far. 7/10. Here's the line coming through the bridge. He will just about have DRS, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to utilise it in the way that he would have wanted. And if Simičić can get the run off the corner, that might just be the race.
There we go. I think the gap is large enough for Jerne Simičić, the 4-time champion, to take another race win in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. He has already done it once this season, back at the German Grand Prix, where we really thought he was resurrecting his title chances. That has certainly gone away. Have Yannick Bock's chances gone away? Well, certainly not. At the moment, he's only 5 points behind McGorgy if the race were to end right now, but he could just reduce that further with a last gas pass here into the final sector, if he can possibly muster one. Here he goes, in towards turn 12 again. He even feints to the inside, but Dennehan doesn't even defend this time round. That's how sure he is of hanging on to 5th position. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, Jerne Simičić is going to hang on. It was a long chase in the end from Jarl Tyne, but Jerne Simičić wins the US Grand Prix to become a World Championship race winner for the 31st time in his career, ahead of a great charge from Jarl Tyne to eventually finish up where he started the race. And there's Owen McGorgy, the new championship leader, trying to become the first British Formula SimRacing World Champion in 7 years. He's taken a big step forward to that today, as Jake Dennehan, his teammate, has done him a big favour. Yannick Bock finishes in 6th place, loses his championship lead, and needs to make up 5 points at the Japanese Grand Prix in 2 weeks to become a world champion.
Wow, what a race that was. The tension was there, and the drama certainly was as well. Dennis Jordan in the end on a 4-stop strategy, coming home in 7th place. Jake Dennehan with a master defence to help his teammate. He himself, as you say, dropping out of championship contention, but put his teammate right in contention, taking the lead and having the advantage coming in. What a season it's been between McGorgy and Bock. And 3 places is the gap here. And just what will it be in terms of points when we get to Japan in a couple of weeks?
4 times out of 9 races, those two have finished behind one another, either in one order or the other. and 3 occasions that was for first and second place as well. It's been a remarkable season between the two of them, but Ewan McGorgy takes the initiative at possibly the perfect possible moment. We'll chat to him in a few moments' time, as well as the other podium drivers. We have a look at the race results. Jerne Simicic, the race winner in the Formula SimRacing World Championship for the 31st time, ahead of Yoltijn, who dropped to 11th after the first pit stops, by the way. Made his way back up to second by the end. Ewan McGorgy finishes, all importantly, on the podium again. His streak of podiums now extends to 6, all the way back to the Singapore Grand Prix in the middle of April. Manuel Biancaluna just misses out in the end ahead of Jake Dennehan, though. McGorgy's teammate doing a great job at holding back Yannick Bock and making sure he only finishes 6th and loses his championship lead. Dennis Jordan, Mitchie Hoyer, Jonas Braktuk and Sander Kallas rounded out the top 10. In 11th place, it was Alex Lehoux, who at one stage was looking like he would get a really good result, but does eventually beat his teammate. Isaac Hillerson and Petter Berlak finished between them. Alessandro Maggio was 14th. Then it was Kostas Van Fucas 15th, out of Thomas Vack and Philip Pushko. With the retirements in the end, George Zalagianis, Cosmo Pizzuto, Jan Kvankvist and Giordano Valeriano. Well, that was a spectacular race. Let's have a quick chat to the drivers who were involved within it. Starting with Jerne Simicic, who is waiting for us at the moment. Welcome in, Jerne. Good to have you back with us. Not only in the Formula SimRacing World Championship on the grid, because you weren't here at the Belgian Grand Prix, but back on the podium for the first time in 5 rounds now. You must be very glad to be back on the podium again. It must be very glad to be winning for the first time in a few months as well. How was the end of that race there with Jarl right behind you, putting pressure on you? In the end, you were able to hang on, but how was the pressure at the end?
Quite a relief, finally a victory after some time. Yeah, I was very surprised by Tyan's tire longevity. Like, he did 1 lap more than me and his pace was still going until the end. I could feel in the last lap that his exits were already much worse, but until then his pace was just extremely good. So yeah, it made me very worried for quite a long time.
What did you make of what was going on around you? Because we weren't focusing in on you as the primary focus of the race, because there was championship battles going on. There was plenty of spins going on around you. I'm sure you noticed at times. What did you make of the amount of drivers that were in contention? And what did you make of your chances throughout the race as well? Because there was stages where we didn't really have a clue who was going to win.
Yeah, there were like 3 groups of people. Like, one group with big undercuts with Dennis and Owen, and then it was myself and Kalash and Dennehan, and then behind that there were Tyan and Bock with like the overcut strategy, and it would all converge in the last stint. So I was like sandwiched between those strategies, and I didn't really know what to do, because if I caught up with P1 and P2, then I would lose a lot of time, and then the overcutters would get me in the end. So in the end, they made my life much easier, but I'm gonna soon check the replays, because when championship protagonists lose like 5 seconds when they are one behind each other on track, then it probably doesn't mean anything too great, right?
Well, exactly, yeah. I'll let you find out for yourself in terms of what happened. Congratulations on the race victory at tonight here, Jerne, and thanks for coming to chat to us too.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Jerne Simicic there, the race winner tonight, ahead of Yoltijn, who I've just interrupted a conversation of. Sorry about that. No Welcome in. Good to have you with us. Good to see you on the podium as well. It's your 3rd appearance in a row this season in 2024, and it's been relatively successful too. 2nd top 5, but first time on the podium. Just how close do you feel you were to actually taking the top step there of that race?
Yeah, I honestly didn't expect to come back to P2. Obviously, a lot of events in between the race happened there for me to get P2, but I think what cost me the potential win was the start. Going from P2 to P6. That was really what set me back.
I mean, is there anything you could have changed about the start? We just presumed you were on the hard tyres and you were always going to get that sort of getaway anyway.
No, I totally misjudged the revs, and I started actually practicing today, like properly. So the setup and all that stuff is credit to Kostas. He made a really, really solid setup today, and I was able to get on pace right away today. And then I didn't practice the starts. That's what cost me today.
Yeah, fair enough. And just finally as well, what you briefly touched on it there. What did you make of all what was going on around you today? I suppose the same thing to Yerno. There were so many drivers who seemed like they were in contention to win that race at a time during then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everybody wanted to lose today. It seemed like a bit of I want to say low quality racing between some of the championship leaders that was not up to par. But yeah, it's there to lose.
We'll speak to them about it in a couple of moments' time. But yeah, congratulations on your second place here tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Your time there, second place, today in the US Grand Prix. Just ahead of Owen McGorgy, who will join us finally as well. The final driver on the podium and the new championship leader of the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Congratulations on that, Owen, and congratulations on third as well. How are you feeling after that race, just to sum up your thoughts after a very eventful evening?
It's a bit of a weird one. I felt I definitely somehow had the pace to at least challenge for the win. But obviously the two incidents didn't really help, and I just want to say to Yannick, I haven't really looked back at it, but if that was my fault, then I am sorry. And it's really not my intention to get into incidents, and especially with Yannick, I want it to be a clean fight, and hopefully we can carry on what we did the past 8 rounds and keep it clean for the last round.
Absolutely, that's what we've got to look forward to in a couple of weeks' time. But what was you've already kind of given us your reading on the incident with Yannick yourself, but also with Dennis as well. There was a spin there too. What was your sort of reading on that incident, sort of in the middle of that race?
Yeah, with Dennis, it was. I mean, if the contact model wasn't so weird and my front right wheel didn't get stuck in its suspension, I don't think I would have spun. But it was, a little bit of an edgy move. It could have gone either way. I could have got through. I could have spun myself. I could have spun him, and it was unlucky for me to come off worse. But I don't think if that is reported, I don't think anything will come of it. I don't think it was bad, but. I said I haven't looked back at it. And with the Yannick one, I think it was probably a racing incident, but I don't want to completely comment on it yet.
Well, we'll obviously see, and obviously the results are provisional, and the thing I'm about to say to you provisional as well, but you lead the championship by 5 points if the positions that everybody crossed the line there are to be believed, and they may well be. How does that make you feel going into the final round? A top 2 would seal the title no matter what Yannick does in a couple of weeks' time. How does that inspire you or not going into the final race of the season?
I'm not too sure how I feel just because of the result and what happened today. But obviously it is nice to lead the championship, and if it does stay like this and I do keep the 5-point lead, then I'm feeling comfortable. I do like Suzuka, so hopefully I can do what I've done in 3 other races this season and win.
Let's see. We look forward to it. And congratulations on another podium here tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Owen McGorgy there, third place on the night and the provisional championship leader as the drivers cross the line here at Circuit of the Americas tonight. Well, Cam, that was one of the most spectacular races we've seen for some time. It was drama from start to finish. The drama will come to an end in a couple of weeks' time. The Japanese Grand Prix coming up as a spectacular championship finale, I'm sure.
And if you're talking about tough tracks to overtake and battle, Japan is another one. If you remember Jake Dennehan, Janne Simicic last season as well. So interesting stuff coming our way in a couple of weeks, and can't wait to see. And of course, we have all the action from Pro and Academy joining us beforehand, back on the same day, on the same schedule for one final day of racing this season.
Well, what a race that was. The US Grand Prix for 56 laps entertained us and thrilled us all throughout. A clash between the championship rivals Yannick Bock and Owen McGorgy, the eventual championship leader at the end of the night, spinning around twice throughout the day. A remarkable evening that ends with Owen McGorgy 5 points in the championship lead ahead of Yannick Bock. Should that stay the same in the stewards' room tonight, that will mean Owen McGorgy only needs to finish first or second at the Japanese Grand Prix, and then there's nothing that Yannick Bock can do to take the championship away from him from that position. So it's all still to play for. Make sure you come and join us again in a couple of weeks' time. As Cam says, there'll be the finales of the Academy and Pro Championships to come before then. A whole afternoon of racing here on the Formula SimRacing YouTube channel for you to look forward to. So I hope that you will join us for that when we get there. For now, though, we'll bid our farewells. I've been Ewan Leary and Cam Rodger has been alongside me. And until we see you over at the Japanese Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, it's goodbye for now.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to Esports.
Who's going to break Laserdisc's world title?
But my Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And
Look at these two go.
oh, he's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.